Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 26 of Talking into Infinity, a Dream Theater podcast. I am your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, and the cmsnetwork.com. You can find us at those locations every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For video replays of the show, check out our YouTube channel or go to Heavy Metal Television. And if you'd like to download the audio version of the podcast, just Google Talking into Infinity podcast, and we're pretty much on any platform that you can possibly think of. This is our big fan hangout episode that we've been talking about for quite some time, so we have a couple special guests that will be helping us out tonight. They will be on camera shortly. Before we get to them, let me bring on my buddy Brian. How's it going, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? It's awesome to be back. I was bummed to miss last week's show, but you guys had a great show with Monty and the deep dive, and sometimes life gets in the way, and I appreciate those that reached out to me, and those that didn't. I know where you live. Let's just put it that way. So.
Yeah, I had several people reach out to me to make sure you were all right. So so I thought it was cool.
That's cool, man. Yeah, and sometimes just life happens, and I appreciate Ward Law and everyone being able to step in and stuff. And I'm super excited about tonight. This is one of those things you and I. We dream up these ideas, and they always sound a lot better on paper than they probably end up being. So we'll see if that's the case again tonight,
True.
It's like literally anything goes. And dude, do you realize it's been like almost an entire year of a podcast we've had now? We're ending our first calendar year of a podcast, which is kind of amazing.
Yep. I was thinking that. I was looking at the numbers the other day, and the first episode was January. I was like, man, it's been that long already. So Nick Brayman's checking in. What's up, man? Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. So I have a surprise for you, Brian.
Okay.
So, a couple episodes ago, we were ranking the album closers. And I said that Space Divest is like a fine limoncello.
Oh, God.
And you said that Space Divest is like a gorilla fart. And I said I should totally bust one of those out for the fan hangout show.
Oh,
and
God.
I, right here, have a gorilla fart.
So what?
Not one, but two.
So what did you actually, because, based on what website you go to, there's 12 different ways of making it. So what is in your actual gorilla fart, John?
I looked up 5 recipes, and the 2 common denominators were whiskey and Jägermeister. So I have, and some of them had 151.
Yep.
So I figured if I'm going in, I'm going all in. So I have half Jaeger and half Jack, and I topped it off with some 151.
Oh, that sounds about close to, I think, what I drank. Oh my God. I feel bad for your wife and your animals.
Yeah, and I made 2 of them. I'm obviously not gonna pound them both, but I figured I would start out the show with this horrific So cheers, everybody. Happy holidays wherever you're at. Here we go. Let's see what a gorilla fart is actually like.
Now, the important question, do you have septic system or do you have city water and sewer?
Oh, that's awful. Oh, that's really bad.
I can't believe you now, what are you washing it down with?
Well, I went from the most manly thing I could find to the most girly thing I could find. It's a watermelon kiwi Truly.
Okay, it looked like a Truly, yeah.
Oh, my God. Ooh. Man, me say F you says cheers, bro. Cheers to you as well. Hopefully you guys are imbibing. Adam Rishog says, I can't believe you actually made a gorilla fart. Amazing. Yeah, I'm not too bright with that. Kale McLeish wants to know, question for John, is this the craziest drink you've ever had? Excuse me. Surely you've got some kind of horror stories being a muso in Florida and all. Muso, sorry. No, not in Florida. I'm actually in Ohio. But I think mix-wise, the craziest thing I've ever had was something in my old band. We called it The Secret. And it was, we even had a tagline for it. It was, it's a secret what's in it, but it ain't a secret what it does to you. And it resided in my freezer when I was single in a milk jug, and I had drawn a skull and crossbones on it. And it was the late night drink when we were all hammered and we decided to get all ballsy. And what it was, the base of it was, what's that stuff? Creme de menthe, the green stuff. And the rest of it was just anything you could think of, because a buddy of mine, I was trying to make Harry Buffalo, and a buddy of mine had just had his wedding, and they had like the ends of the liquor bottles left. And I thought, oh, you just put everything together and that's Harry Buffalo. No. So I remember it was green. And I know there was, besides the creme de menthe, there was tequila, there was gin, there was rum, there was vodka, there was a little bit of Jägermeister in there. I mean, it was putrid, but that was our thing. It was in my freezer and we would always party at my house after my band would play gigs, and we would invite the crowd back. So we generally have like 40, 50 people in my little apartment. And this one night, this guy decided he thought that, it was like a rite of passage, no Dream Theater pun intended. And this poor guy, like, we just did it for fun. It wasn't like, oh, you're a total wuss if you don't drink The Secret. Well, this guy thought that was the case, and he starts chugging this stuff. He ended up, like in his car, like frothing from the mouth. We almost had to call 911. It was like, this poor guy. We're like, dude, you don't have to do that, man. Oh, so bad. But yeah.
You're listening to The Spirits Carry On with John and Brian, a Dream Theater alcohol-infused podcast.
Right. Nick Brayman, he says, chasing gorilla farts with Truly. Now that's metal. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, they don't make Zima anymore. Otherwise, that's what it I mean, when
no.
you drink that stuff, doesn't it just almost taste like Zima? That's what it kind of tastes like to me.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. Nick Brayman also says, love the Van Halen background. Appreciate it. That is my favorite band besides Dream Theater, so I figured on an off night I'll bust out some Van Halen. Oscar Salvador, he says, I got a cold bud that's been sitting out in the cold all night. Cheers. Cheers to you, my friend. All right, so let's get our first special guest on. So we did reach out, on our social media platforms. I told you guys on the show also that if you guys wanted to help co-host the show, you're more than welcome to. Any of you guys in the chat, if you want to jump on camera, just shoot me an email. It's talkingintoinfinity@gmail.com. But our buddy Brandon Charles wanted to come on, and he had a topic that he wanted to bring up. So we're going to bring him in here. His camera is off. Full disclosure, Brandon is actually legally blind. So he's actually just doing audio. He may come on camera, he may not. He has not decided. But he actually has a topic that he wanted to discuss. Brandon, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, man.
Fantastic. Well, it's better off people don't get to see my ugly mug anyway, so it's all good.
We say that too.
Yeah, face for radio. So anyway, before I start with the topic, I just want to say how great it is. I just want to fanboy for a second and how great it is that this podcast exists, because I was really excited. Actually, the day Dream Theater announced A View from On Top of the World, I was thinking, wow, I really love this band. And it's hard to find people who will just straight up fanboy about Dream Theater. And I was thinking, they say there's a podcast for everything. And I looked it up, and this is when I found Talking Into Infinity. And then I just started binging all the episodes. So this has really been a great gift to me to have some brothers and sisters and people that love Dream Theater as much as I do. So great podcast, guys, and love being a part of it every week or 2 weeks.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that. I know Brian does too.
Yeah.
It's definitely fun, man. It's like we kind of thought the same thing. Brian actually came up with the idea. He's like, hey, would you ever want to do a podcast about Dream Theater? And I was like, wow, there's a question I never thought I would get. And I was like, yeah, when I looked it up, I'm like, wow, there's no podcasts about Dream Theater. All right. So there we
Yes.
go.
About every 3 months, I text John late at night when I've been drinking with an idea. This is like the first out of like 12 that he's like, yeah, let's do it. The rest are like, God, no.
Nice. Look at contrary Marge. Hi, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. That's so crazy. Adam
How-
Rishog is saying hello. Our buddy Adam Rishog says, hey, Brandon. And Nick Brayman says, cheers, Brandon. Couldn't agree more. So,
Yes.
so let's jump into what you had sent over. So
Yeah.
you said an interesting topic would be modern production. For example, on the album A View from the Top of the World, it's amazing how you can now clearly hear every instrument. And we are also in a time where Jordan has artificially simulated instruments. I'm curious to get everybody's thoughts on that. On the one hand, it's great because you don't have to have a full orchestra in the studio. On the other hand, what does it say about the future of music and the irony that they had an album called The Astonishing? So it is your topic. So why don't you lead us off, man? What do you think about modern production? Is it, because when you mentioned the topic, I was thinking, A View from the Top of the World, and you go back and listen to something like When Dream and Day Unite, the first record.
Oh yeah, or even
So-
Images and Words. Like it's a good album. I mean, this is not to obviously say anything bad about previous albums, but the one thing I love and the thing I think that was talked about in the documentary that they came out with after the release of A View from on Top of the World is how Mike Mangini, for example, really wanted to make sure, for example, at the end of Answering the Call with the drums, that they could be very audibly heard. And the one thing I notice every time I listen to that album is just how you can sometimes in music, there's a lot of elements that are very compressed. They're very much buried. And I feel like this album, it really is a great statement about what you can do with music and how clearly you can make it cut out. So where I hear something new, I think everybody can say this, but I hear something new every single time I decide to listen to the album. So that's really great. And I'm not really judging either way. I think that part in I think it's 10 or 11 minutes in View from the Top of the World, this song where Jordan does the cello solo, admittedly on the iPad, is fantastic. I love that transition. It sounds amazing. I just think it's interesting, especially want to get your opinion. I think both of you are musicians. So just as musicians, I'm curious what your thoughts would be, because it's cool that it can be done. And I think that it's really great that, especially in these times where you really can't have big groups of people together, that it's possible. But I think that it's really interesting to see that, now it's like, okay, there's more, I guess, automation happening more and more. I don't see Dream Theater as a band to totally rely on that, but I just did think, like, yeah, they made an album called The Astonishing with noise machines.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the whole thing about The Astonishing, and I'm interested to get Brian's take on this because he's more so of a musician than I am. But The Astonishing, I mean, I think we've mentioned it in passing on the show. Is it's almost like John Petrucci's it's kind of his thoughts on the future of music and how things are going. Like you said, the modern production and I mean, like we said right there in the first song with lyrics, Gift of Music, he says people just don't have time for music anymore. And so yeah, I find that to be very interesting as well. You make an excellent point about The Astonishing. In terms of production, and then I want to get your opinion, Brian, but last night I did a debate with Chris Aiken, who runs the CMS network we're a member of. And we were debating Rust in Peace versus And Justice for All. And a few people brought up production, saying that, it's such a tight race, but, they would take Rust in Peace because the production is better than it is on And Justice for All. So I think you bring up a great topic, because that can really take away from some things, because there's some great 80s records. We love the songs, but they sound like dog shit. So, Oscar Salvador, he says, I remember one of the first new Megadeth CDs I bought was too crisp with all the zeros and ones. Can't remember if it was Rust or Countdown. And those are perfect examples. Those remasters they did where they, they reamp, they remiked, they had a new snare sound and different, tones for the bass and stuff like that. And
that was hard. I heard, for example, like the Symphony of Destruction, for example. I love the original. So sometimes having that production is good. I think the thing is, though, it's one thing to have that initially. Like, we have that expectation for a new Dream Theater album, A View from the Top of the World. But I think another great example is the remix they did to Pull Me Under that was on their greatest hit album. It sounds a little weird when you try to go back and do it with older music. I think it's great when you're coming out with songs, but I think that it is a little weird when you go back and try to rewrite history.
I completely agree. I don't like those mixes. Portnoy took the triggers off the snare and the kick, and it just does not sound right. I don't like it. It's like it sticks out like a sore thumb. So I completely agree with you on that. All right, Marcelo Ferreira, he says orchestra on a keyboard, bullshit. So Brian, what is your take on this? Because I know when we went to Chicago to see the Distance Over Time tour, you actually have one of Jordan's downloads on your iPad. You have like one of his, digital instruments. So where do you stand on this?
Well, that's more of a artificial sounding. Like there's nothing exactly in some of the ones I have that can make the true pure sounding orchestra. That's more of the crazy sounds. But he's almost adept enough that he can almost twist those into sounding like that. I think it's whatever serves the song. When you're building a song and however you're building it from what foundation, I think it's fine. Like, I think where you get into trouble is when you try to use the production to, more or less compensate or take over for what the song is supposed to be and what the album is supposed to be. And the point about the remixes, I think, is great. Like, remember that horrible remix of Shout at the Devil? Like,
oh yeah,
like the original is a dirty, grimy. It's like a punk almost. That's borderline punk album, and that's how you want it. And I've always just kind of been against remastering, like Brandon's saying, like the old stuff. Like, you don't need to remaster Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd. I mean, those were recorded so incredibly without all of this new technology, without being able to fly in guitar parts and, fly in all these amazing sound things that they have going on and atmospheres and whatnot. So it's like, why try to cover that up and why try to change that? And I just think they're good at utilizing technology. They balance it out enough, but you go back and listen to the new album and I can't remember what song it is, but it's loaded with Hammond organ still,
Yeah.
And it's probably a simulator on his keyboard because nobody carries around a 1,400-pound Hammond organ anymore and hauls it into the
Right.
studio. It just doesn't happen. So some things like that are just practically oriented, but if you can get one that sounds just like it and you can get the rotary Leslie speakers in it sounding like that, why the hell not play it on a synth, that's coming out of a laptop that's probably got a sample in it as opposed to the actual thing, just from a practical standpoint, especially if it sounds, damn near almost identical.
Yep.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think of, for example, Sleeping Giant, and at the beginning of that, once it kicks in with that Hammond, actually reminds me of like a 70s Deep Purple kind of sound. So I mean, we really did do a great job of pulling that off, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I don't think it's one of those things that has to be a this is right or this is wrong thing, but I think it's an interesting discussion moving forward, because I think technology and the way that music is being produced is starting to really exponentially change. So it's just interesting to really, I think, going back to the astonishing, I think what John Petrucci said is correct. It's really going to come down to the musicians and the authenticity that they keep in their mind. And the other, I think, thing I can reference that directly relates to this is Spirit of Radio from Rush, which is another one of my favorite bands. Modern machinery making modern music can still be open-hearted, not so fully charted. It's really just a question of your honesty. Yeah,
no, I completely agree with you, man. I mean, for me, I come more from the singer standpoint because that's what I've done the most of in a studio. I've recorded bass parts and I've done a couple drum tracks, but most of my work has been vocally. And I listen to a lot of modern stuff these days, and the digital stuff is fine, auto tune and putting the drums on a grid and stuff like that. That's all fine. But unfortunately, a lot of people are really heavy-handed with it, and you can tell. And especially, I've seen a couple, and granted, they're local bands, but I'll listen to a song and I'll be like, all right, cool, I like this song, and I'll go out to support them and everything, and I'll go to a show, and they can't especially the singers, they can't sing worth a shit live. I mean, it's basically, unfortunately, used to cover up for deficiencies, and that's the part that I don't like. The thing that I love about those older records, I'll use my favorite band Van Halen for example. You had to be able to play, and even when auto-tune and stuff started coming around, people used it a little bit, but it's not nearly like it is today. Like you had to be able to play, and it's I'll reference the cover band that I sing in. We do stuff like Renegade by Styx, and we do Queen songs, and we've got 3-part vocal harmonies, and live you can't fake that. We don't have anything on our voices. There's some reverb obviously, but and it's you can't fake that, and yet so many bands try to fake it, and then they get live and it sucks. And
That's cool that you brought up Van Halen, because I actually wanted to bring up something which I was reminded of actually, and I wanted to also mention. It reminds me, I think there was a guy, I forget what his name is, and I don't know if you saw this on YouTube recently. He was kind of calling out the kind of perfectly timing things, how like Running with the Devil isn't exactly in 4/4 time, and how playing it, if you actually use something to kind of tighten up the timing, that it would actually take out the raw grittiness of the song. And he did an example of screwing with it. So that really just speaks to your point of, you got to let the musicians, sometimes, the note strings out a little bit extra. As long as the musicians know what they're playing, that's really all that matters.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, it's that slowing up and slowing down, speeding up, like when you can hear, the live feel of the thing. It's, you have to have that. I mean, you have to have it, or else it just sounds too mechanical. I mean,
yeah.
So Adam Rishog says, I can certainly appreciate some of the modern production techniques used these days. Take the new Neural DSP guitar plugins that most bands use now. The sound that they get from them is incredible. I'll always appreciate a live orchestra sound, but it doesn't make much of a difference to me if it's if it's computer generated or not, as long as the album sounds great. We brought up Motley Crue. Contrary Marge says, Too Fast for Love was the perfect 80s metal record. That is a absolutely obnoxious, like unforgiving listen, and I love it. It's like the songs have different production, and personally for me, any album that has a song like Livewire, I'm trying to bring up a song, I can't remember it. I mean, if you got Livewire on a record, you're doing something good. And so let's go here. So speaking of remasters, Me Say F You, a great name in the chat. One of the worst remasters, in my opinion, was Queensryche's Rage for Order. Leave it alone. It was fine as the original. I've never heard the remaster. Have you guys heard that?
I have not.
I have not, but why in the world didn't Peter Collins produce that? I could be wrong on that.
I would.
I'm trying to look that up just to make sure if I'm right.
Yeah,
but anyway, that's like one of the most insanely super polished, probably overproduced, but I love the sound of it. Like, why in the hell would you try to like expand on that even? Like, that doesn't even make any sense.
Right? Yeah, I mean, some things just need to be left alone. Like, like he said, I mean, why are you messing with it? I mean, I think the most egregious one for me is, the record I was talking about last night, Rest in Peace, because on that remaster, it's like, he redid some vocal parts. Like, what the hell are you doing? I mean, you could do a song like Five Magics, and the original was like, I master Magic's 5. Like, it sounds ominous, and on the remaster it's like, I master Magic's 5. It's like, what the hell is this Muppet sounding shit? Like,
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's terrible. So like, what the hell is the point? I mean, I don't know. I mean, and I mean, Van Halen kind of did it right. Van Halen's remasters, they're a little more crisp, they're a little bit louder, but they really didn't change anything. And actually, those I even was kind of annoyed with, because the Roth records, at least the first, I want to say 4, if not 5 through Diver Down, they put bass on one side and guitar on the other to recreate like a live environment. And they used to always say, oh, yeah, if you're driving around in your car and one speaker's blown, you get screwed out of either the bass or the guitar. So when they remastered them, I was like, God damn it, put the guitar in the middle. Like, I want to hear Eddie. Like, I want to hear as much Eddie as possible.
I agree.
So, all right, so we do have a question in the chat. So I'm interested to get your guys' opinion. So Adam Rishog, he asks, here's a question for everyone. So you guys in the chat, let us know too. Here's a question for everyone. What is a band that you love their sound on CD, but have been really disappointed with how they sounded live? Mine would be Megadeth or Children of Bodom. Is it Bodom or Bodom? Whatever. I don't know. I don't care.
I think it's Bodom.
Okay. I'm just going to drop out because I would actually agree with Megadeth. I think their guitar sound live is pretty crappy.
Yeah, I'm going to third that.
Oh, wait, no, I've got one. Metallica. Because Lars Ulrich is quote unquote playing drums for them. And I hate the way he plays drums ever since the Black Album. I'm like, dude, you're not AC/DC. Piss off. So, all right. So, Brandon, what about you?
I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with Megadeth. I know like it's kind of the obvious, beating up on Dave Mustaine at this point, but I mean, I actually agree. It kind of, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's pretty much where my mentality is. And I feel like Megadeth over the years has tried to rewrite some of their stuff. And I just have a problem with that because what made them successful in the first place was the fact that they were really in the boom of thrash. And now it's like, hey, here's all this new production stuff we have.
Yeah. What about you, Brian?
I haven't seen this band actually live, but I watch almost all of their YouTube videos when they tour. I just haven't made it to a show. But Breaking Benjamin, the singer just does not.
Yes.
I just did that too, Brandon.
Yeah.
I love, and he's probably one of the guys we're talking about that definitely does a ton of manipulation on the sounds on the album.
That's a great example. The album Dear Agony, for example, reminds me of that.
It sounds awesome. So I'm not going to necessarily fault him on that, but live, I don't know. He can't pull that off from basically what I've seen. It just doesn't remotely sound anywhere near. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's easy to bring up like the old guys like Doc, and he sounded horrible for years, but I think that's not really what we're talking about here. But yeah, Breaking Benjamin for me. And again, I haven't got to see him live, but luckily, I mean, most of the concerts I've seen in the last few years, like just saw Gojira, absolutely, just probably better live, in my book.
Nice.
I don't really have like a real letdown outside of Megadeth just because of the the guitar sound. But I mean, I've seen unfortunately, I've been at shows where bands have crap sound. I mean,
sorry, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw Motley Crue on one of the first reunion tours with Vince, and that sound was garbage. I mean, I was talking to my brother at room volume while we're sitting in an arena. I'm like, can somebody turn up the goddamn volume? I'm at a rock show. Like, what the heck? I'm not in the library. Like, what are you doing?
I will say on the flip side, Avatar, that is a band, sounds really good on album, but live, the show and they sound as good as on. I mean, just absolutely, you have to see that band live because you can listen to it and go, this is kind of a Marilyn Manson meets vaudeville, whatever. But you see something like that live, and Avatar they will just destroy you if there's a 3-band bill. You don't want to go on. Don't want to go on after them. It's like Sabaton at this point, basically.
My stepson loves that band, and he said the exact same thing. Cale McLeish, excuse me. This is a difficult one because I absolutely love this guy. Does it count if they were sick? Because the only concert I've ever been let down by was Slash. Miles's voice died horribly, but he was unwell. I wouldn't count sickness. I've seen shows where the singer was sick, and you kind of I especially as a singer myself, I give anybody credit to have the balls to go out there and not cancel. I mean, it sucks that they're not sounding the best, but they're trying to give you what they have. So I can't really count that. And I would tell you, Cale, I've seen Slash on pretty much every one of his solo tours because my wife Stephanie, Slash is like Guns N' Roses is her favorite band, and she absolutely loves Slash. And man, go see him again because Miles live is just absolutely incredible. I'd say that to anybody, but
well, yeah, and if you know anything about Miles, like that guy treats his voice like like it's $1 million just sitting in his throat. With he's got like a safe on it, and I mean he does nothing but completely take care of his body and his voice. So if he sings bad, it's the person that feels the worst about it's going to be him.
Yeah. Well, so here's another question for you guys. So Oscar Salvador says, perhaps Crew, since Mick admitted they used tracks in addition to playing live. By the way, is that not one of the worst kept secrets you've ever heard? I mean, when you just know it. I mean, that those backing vocals that Nikki Sixx is supposedly singing, especially in stuff like Girls, 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 like you don't have that range.
Wild Side.
Yes, another perfect example. Yeah. So where do you guys stand with bands using tracks live? My cover band uses them obviously for like keyboards and stuff like that, or like horns because we do dance music here and there. But where I mean, Brandon, where do you stand on bands actually using tracks? Like, I'll give you an example of one that doesn't bother me. Seven Dust has some tracks because they've got all kinds of wild production on their stuff, and I don't care. Seven Dust is absolutely phenomenal live.
Yeah, I agree. Like Animosity comes to mind, for example.
Oh yeah, what a
love that
kick-ass
album.
record.
I mean, there's a lot of like electronic drumming. In addition, though, to more, this is the thing, and I think Seven Dust is actually a great example that'll prove my point. It's not an album built on electronic drumming. There is parts of it in there, but Morgan Rose is actually playing over it. So I think my answer to that would be, how much is a band relying on that? If it's a feature and it can be used as part of it, then I think, hey, that's cool. It's great. I think actually this kind of leads into the whole entire discussion that we're having now, like even with what Jordan was doing on the album. If it contributes to how good the album is and it's being used tactfully, I have no problem with it. If it's being used as a sort of lazy crutch, then yeah, and you can tell the difference.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Brian?
I think it's expected anymore, especially with the 80s and the, so-called hair stuff, I guess. You got to have those giant big background courses going in there. Otherwise, it's just going to sound thin and just sound weak. So I don't think it really bothers me, at this point to know that, Nikki Sixx or no one else could sing those parts. And they probably couldn't sing them in the studio. They had someone else do them, or they layered them 17,000 times,
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there's a documentary about all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and for Dream Warriors, they actually have a couple little blips where they interviewed Dokken about the song, and Don said, he's like, man, I can't do that live. He's like, I couldn't do that live back when in 1987 when this came out. Like, I that's one thing I've never understood, man. It's like, these guys, like, I don't know, maybe this is just me being insecure, I suppose, but whenever I've tried to write vocals, I've always tried to keep the live environment in mind. Kind of, we talked about this, when we were talking about the new record. James seems to be doing that on A View from the Top of the World. Very, very, very smart outlook. But so many of these guys write, like, well, I can hit this super crazy high note one time, so I'll do that in the studio. And it's like, man, I don't know. I could never do that because I'm like, if I'm going to go live, I want people to hear exactly what they hear on the record. I don't want to be like cheating notes because I did something I can't recreate,
Eddie Trunk talked about this actually, I think, a couple years ago, and it really got me to thinking about music and bands. And he was talking about how a lot of these bands kind of paint themselves into a corner. Like when you're younger, yeah, of course you can do all this and that. But, at a certain point, you're not going to be able to wail and scream and do all those notes that you're going to be able to do to Brian's points. So it's kind of, that music holds up as far as how great it is on the album, but it does paint a band into the corner. I think Robert Plant's a good example of that.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Although man, I love that 2007 record, the what was it called, Celebration Day, when they did the one-off reunion show. I tell you what, man, you go listen to Kashmir on there, and when he gets in the middle, he's like, woo, yeah. I mean, he's tuned down, but my God, he gets that note. You're like, it's like goosebumps. Like, that's Robert Plant.
Yeah, I forgot to mention when we were talking earlier, I went and saw that Bon Jovi drive-in concert, and man,
oh yeah,
you talk about a voice that just, I don't even know. It's like he's really just trying to figure out, is there a way I can get these notes out? And I don't know. It just doesn't sound. And I don't know if how many people saw the last, that document, the Rush movie I saw. In the last couple of years, Geddy Lee, you can tell he's clearly enunciating and singing in a different way to try to get the notes out on all these songs.
Yeah.
And it sounds a little bit strange, but once you hear him do like half a song, you're like, okay, I can see what how he's doing it here, and it doesn't really bother me. But man, that Bon Jovi thing, like, I almost felt sorry for him. It's almost like he's up here and he's like, I don't even know how to approach this, because it's like short of like putting everything down 2 steps. Like I don't know. It was uncomfortable. Plus, they just deluged you with all this new stuff that's just like, crap. I don't know what yeah. That's a good word for
Honestly,
it.
let's
Crap.
go with it.
A gorilla fart.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you mention that because it kind of leads into a comment in the chat real quick. But I I was doing a thing with Aiken one time. We found a video, and you guys should look this up because it's like really bad. And it was during COVID. John Bon Jovi did a solo acoustic version of "Living on a Prayer," and the video is titled "John Bon Jovi Living on a Prayer acoustic with Richie Sambora." I'm like, how is this possible? Richie's not in the band anymore. Well, what he did is he pulled old footage of Richie doing his "Living on a Prayer," like that part, and he put it up on like a little window in the corner when it would come up. But sometimes it was off time and stuff like that. And John was singing like this, like it was like he got new teeth and couldn't sing around him. Like, what the hell are you doing? It was so bad. And Oscar Salvador, he says, I saw Alice in Chains in their early days. In the later days when Lane lost his teeth and he had a lisp, I think it was okay to increase echo, reverb, or whatever it was. Yeah. Actually, if you can hear that lisp, if you go back and listen for it in the Unplugged show, you can hear that. And especially those 2 bonus songs on Music Box. It's all over that. And I read a Alice in Chains biography, and the guy who recorded it was saying, like, he had to do all kinds of tricks to get that out of his voice. And
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I don't want to cut your point, but speaking of lisp, man, did anyone know Kevin Cronin had this lisp before? I never
did
saw
not.
this.
No.
Yeah, where did this come from? Like, I can watch a show as old as 6-7 years on YouTube, and he's got this lisp. I'm like, did he have this before? I never like, did he have some kind of mouth cancer or something, or like, where the hell did this thing come from?
I do not know.
It's so
man.
bizarre.
I do not know.
Yeah, it's about as pronounced as that I've ever seen in any when he's talking, and when he starts out a song and it's kind of just him and the piano or guitar, it just nails you like right there. Once he gets going, it's not that bad, but it's like where did this come into play?
All right, Brandon, we're going to bring on another guest here.
All right, thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you guys.
We have one quick question for you.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite Dream Theater album, and do you have a least favorite Dream Theater song?
Okay, I'm going to go with, for favorite Dream Theater album, I'm going to go with Octavarium, mainly because it was actually when I discovered them. I actually discovered them speaking of Megadeth, on the Gigantor sampler.
Yeah.
And that's when I discovered them, and that was the first album I physically bought from them, was Octavarium. As far as least favorite Dream Theater song, I'll just be honest. I appreciate When Dreaming Day Unite from the perspective that it is their first album, but I could kind of take it or leave it and accept Images and Words as their first true album.
Okay. I would disagree with you, but but I'm a big fan of that first record. So there you go.
I like hearing James do it live, and it's not that the vocalist is bad, but it kind of goes back to what we said earlier about the production thing. Everything's like echoey, and there's really no bass or anything like that.
Yeah, that one I will agree with you on. I have the remastered version on CD, and it kind of fixes that a little bit. So
I'll have
I think
to check that out. I have not heard that. I heard the original, so I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, it's not too different, but it is louder and more crisp, and you can hear things a little better. So I got mine off of eBay cheap. I think it was like $10 or something. So
all right,
you can find it there. But dude, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yes,
You're
thank you so
awesome.
much for having me on.
Anytime, man. And again, you were great, and thanks for supporting the show, man. We really, really appreciate it. Happy holidays, bro.
Yes, love you guys.
Yeah, thanks,
Take
buddy.
care, man. You too, bud. All right, so that was our buddy Brandon Charles. So there we go. And now we have another special guest, and we might have 2 special guests. So let's see here. Is he ready? I believe he is. Let's bring on, actually he's co-hosted with us a couple times here, Brian. Mr. Cale McLeish, what is up, man?
How you doing?
How's it going?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Loving the hat, Brian. Loving the hat.
Thank you, sir.
He's covering up. He forgot to put a Christmas hat on James, so he's covering up James purposely. So, Cale, I believe you have a special guest there with you as well.
I can definitely grab her.
Yeah, why don't we do that? So we are actually gonna
get a second. Just grab her.
Sounds like a plan.
Oh, she's right behind me.
Oh, there we go. We officially have Cale's
Ladies and
grandma.
gentlemen, this is Gran.
How are you, Gran? How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, John. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. So Brian said he was going to do this. So Brian, ask her the question you wanted to ask her.
I can't even remember what it was.
I will do it for you. We want you to say, that's a knife. That's not a knife. This is a knife. So you got to say that.
From Crocodile Dundee. You know the famous line.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I'm getting picked up here.
We live in
I
Western.
don't blame
We
you.
live in Western Australia.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and
I-
that's a very Queensland thing. That's a very Queensland
okay.
thing.
I
Hey,
have a question
that's-
for you.
This is
What-
a knife. This is a knife.
What's the
Yes.
since it's almost Christmas? What's the worst present Kale ever got you for Christmas?
Oh,
What's the lamest present he ever got you for Christmas? I'm curious.
He hasn't got a lame bone in his body. I've never had a lame
Okay, all right.
present from Kale.
What's the best present he ever got you?
Oh gosh, what's the best present he ever got me? Just being there. Just being there.
there. All right.
look at this.
Just
She's shooting us down on our questions. She's getting all sappy with us.
Okay, what's
No
your favorite-
controversial takes.
What's your favorite Dream Theater song, Kale's grandma?
My very favourite song is
Uh-oh.
What
You
is-
got to read notes. That's not
I
good.
do. Spirit carries on. It would have to be.
Okay.
There we go. So, in honor of you, Gran, you know, I'm gonna do my second gorilla fart of the night. So, you know, figure did one in
I've
one in
heard
the,
of these.
you don't want
No,
want
I
it,
don't.
but
I don't.
I already made it, so I'm kind of stuck with it. So, you know.
What is your drink of choice, Kale's grandma?
Oh, I'm a bubbles girl. Very much a bubbles girl. Mm.
Okay, so champagne, or is that an actual drink?
Oh no, yeah, champagne I love.
Champagne.
Yes, anything with bubbles in it.
Oh,
yes.
carbonated. Okay.
There you go. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right. So, how did you get into Dream Theater?
Well, Kale and I spend a reasonable amount of time together. I'm very, very fortunate, and we've always shared our love of music. I just love music, and Kale has introduced me to Dream Theatre, and I have to say I have learned an awful lot about music. And my appreciation for the talent of these guys is just absolutely amazing. And I think Kale has a very special gift. When he's listening to music, he hears every single sound and note. And that is something he's taught me and that I've learned probably more from listening to Dream Theatre than anything else, because it's so incredibly complex and there's so many facets of it to listen to and hear. And yeah, that's something I really enjoy.
Now, are there any bands or artists that you loved that you turned Kale onto? There's got to be one, right? Something.
He shares one of my great passions with me from time to time because he's so gorgeous, but it's not his passion. I mean, I love I suppose I love classical music more than anything else. My great love at the moment are three beautiful Italian guys called Il Volo.
Okay, awesome.
Very nice. My mother likes them as well. She's a huge Luciano Pavarotti fan.
Oh,
So,
yes. Yeah,
absolutely loves him. Absolutely
yeah.
loves him.
They're just amazing. Again, very talented, multi-talented young guys who not only sing amazingly, but have multiple musical talents. And they're just a joy.
Right. So, do you find yourself listening to Dream Theater when you're not with Kale? Is this a band you actually?
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just depends on my mood.
Do you have a go-to album of theirs? I know you said The Spirit Carries On is your favorite song, but do you have a go-to album?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
The Astonishing, it would have to be.
Oh,
Wow, yes.
One of John's
Yes!
favorites.
I love it. I knew we had you on for a reason. There we go. Yes.
That was the first album that I listened to from go to woe, shall we say.
Okay.
And I listen to it constantly. Yes, I love it. It's beautiful.
That is So what is your favorite aspect of that record? Because I love first of all, I love that, you know, the way that the musical climate is now. People don't have a long attention span, and yet they put out a 2.5 hour concept record. So that to me is fascinating, and I love this. It's almost like listening to a movie instead of watching it. So I like that. What is your favorite aspect of that record?
Oh, that's a very difficult question to answer. I love the length of it, and I love the fact that I can turn it on. And I mean, you would rarely walk into my home and not hear music, because I just play music all the time. So I turn that on, and I'm just in that zone for without having to think about what I'm going to listen to next for quite some time. Yeah, I don't have to go and press replay, because it just keeps on and on. It's just wonderful.
Now, are you playing the CDs, or is everything like Spotify digital, or what's your
no, CDs.
preferred? CDs? You still love CDs?
Wow,
Okay.
physical product. I like it.
Awesome.
Yeah, no.
Very
I
cool.
like Kale. I appreciate to have the item in my hand. With my passion for Il Volo, they're not super popular in Australia. I discovered them by accident by cruising around, as Kale has taught me to do, on the internet. So I have to order things and wait for months to get them in. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Now, you've seen Dream Theater live, correct? If I'm remembering correctly, you and Kale saw them once together, or have you not?
No, I haven't seen them live, unfortunately. Okay. No.
And would you go to a Dream Theater show with Kale?
Absolutely, I would. Absolutely, yes. We've shared many live shows, and that's one that's on the agenda if we ever have that opportunity again.
What's the best live show that you and Kale went to together? Or just give me a couple, whatever. What were some of your favorites?
Les Mis, Phantom,
Okay.
Lion King. We saw Elton John last year. He was pretty awesome as well.
Wow,
Yeah,
nice.
That's a good word for him. Yeah, awesome. For sure.
Yeah. And we're going to see Two Cellos next year.
Oh,
God
cool.
willing.
Wow.
We've got our tickets. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We'll turn it over to Kale. We don't want to bother you
Awesome.
too much, but we had to have you on because Kale mentions you all the time. You're kind of like a star, to us. So, he mentions you a lot.
That?
So, well,
Thank you.
No problem, man. And it's
been an absolute privilege. Thank you, and have a lovely Christmas and stay safe. Wear your masks.
Yes, I
You too.
completely agree with you. Yes, Grant, it was awesome to interview you. Thank you so much. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
You too. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
She's the best. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I don't think we need to have Kale on anymore. We'll just have his grandma.
Yeah.
And she was worried about it.
Nah. All right, Kale. So thanks for coming on. We just wanted to let you know that we're dumping you and keeping your Grant on for the rest of the show. So I do want to say one thing before we get into our next discussion topic here. I got to tell you, Kale, like Brandon said, he was, quote unquote fanboying out at the beginning of the show. Brian, if you want to jump in on this, I'm sure you agree, but Brian and I both really appreciate you. You and Adam are our first two viewers, listeners, whatever. And I know, especially me, you tuned into my Star Wars show, you tuned in to my one-off last night, and we really, really appreciate you coming on. And I know it's 12 hours, you're early in the morning over there, and you still jump on to check out the show, man. And we appreciate it way more than we could ever express. So thank you.
Absolutely, man. I mean, if you guys didn't put out great content all the time, I wouldn't keep watching, but started watching Brian's stuff on CMS. Which one was it that you sent me? It was the Megadeth coloring book, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then I started following along from there, and, and then you've got the Star Wars show. I mean...
Hey, anyone that could sit through John's Star Wars podcast deserves...
Hey,
I don't mean so much for John, but some of your other people on there. I don't know, man.
Man, it's a fun show. Don't be ripping on the Nerf Herder Council.
No, I'm just messing with you, man.
I mean, that was actually really fun because I was down with the cold when you did the Phantom Menace watch along.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's like, oh man, it's hot, it's humid, I'm sweaty, I don't feel good. I want to watch a movie.
There you go.
The podcast. They're just like, well, at least now I don't have to pick the movie, and it can still be communal.
I was watching at one point when Kale was on, and all the questions he was asking, I'm like, yep, this is John's best friend for life now, because I had no idea about anything at all you were talking about. I just have a baseline of the originals and seen the other ones, but
my wife makes fun of me constantly because I've got the two shows, and she's like, you have the two nerdiest topics ever. You talk about Star Wars and Dream Theater. Dream Theater's cool and everything, but yeah, it's like I'm like, yeah, it's nerdy, but it's great. It's a good time. So
absolutely.
So Kale, did you have a topic in mind? I thought you said you had something you wanted to bring up.
Well, I'm figuring at some point you're going to bring up everything Dream Theater, but I'm thinking for me it's Christmas Eve. For you guys, it's December 23rd. Why not bring up a very special one-off that happened last year and talk about Holiday Spirit Carries On.
Did you
Really
listen to that,
cool
Brian?
medley.
I did, yeah. I forgot to check it out again this year. That was very cool though.
No, did you guys buy it? I bought it.
I did not buy it.
Yeah, when they put that out, it was specifically they were trying to raise money for the road crew, because COVID had shut everything down, and they were trying to help their their crew get paid. And
I actually only found out about it this year, to be honest. But
really,
yeah.
oh, this sucks. Okay, so we were supposed to have another guest on. Rock and Roll Podcast was going to jump on, and he says, "Hello, everyone. Happy holidays. I'm sick with a stomach bug, so I won't be able to join tonight. Sucks." Well, that sucks. We were wondering why you didn't jump in, man, but hopefully it is not the COVID because that's going crazy here now. So hopefully you're feeling better soon, buddy, and hopefully you have an awesome Christmas. So we'll get you on sometime soon here.
Yeah, feel better, buddy.
All the best, dude.
Yeah, I would personally love to see an entire holiday Dream Theater album, even if it's just all instrumental, why the hell not? I wonder if they would ever do it.
Really?
Yeah,
I hate that.
I don't know that they would. I love
Trans-Siberian. A lot of people can't stand it. I think it's really cool. I think it's different. It's unique. It's
yeah,
great
but
to see it live.
Trans-Siberian kind of has that vibe to it. It's like,
well, yeah, that's the point of the band, exactly. Yeah, I'm with you, Kale. Like, I mean, that's the point of it. You know what I mean? Like.
Well, maybe we don't need a 75-minute album, but I don't know, maybe like a 50-minute album of just jam out on, just do them Dream Theater style, so they're even heavier and even more progressive. I think it would be cool. But I'm in the minority here.
It could be fun though. I'm not gonna lie, it would be fun. I just don't think I see
it's never gonna happen.
It would ever gonna happen.
No, it won't.
Well, I look at like the Rob Halford Christmas albums, and I love Rob Halford. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, dude, what are you doing? So, but I have to admit, like Dream Theater, kind of progging up Jingle Bells would be pretty hilarious to hear.
Which they've now done twice, if we count that little thing in Octavarium there, haven't
they? Yep.
Did you see that Slayer thing with Jordan Rudess?
Yeah.
No. Was it Holiday Seasons in the Abyss or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
It's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen in your life.
It's Jordan's in it, and Charlie Griffiths from Haken's doing one of the guitars at least.
No
it's
kidding.
Pretty. It's out there, man.
It was intense. And the funny thing is, I did a show here in Bunbury last year. We headlined the Carols concert. We literally called ourselves Slayer, and then I found out I was just like, you bastards stole our name, didn't you?
That's hilarious.
It's good to know that for once I was ahead of Jordan Rudess.
Holy
only time that's ever going to happen.
What is wrong with you guys? Yeah, I don't
Everything. Haven't you learned that by now?
I don't know, man. I think I'm worse off than you guys. I'm the one that did a pair of freaking gorilla farts tonight. So
yeah, well,
like that's So Kale, would you ever drink a gorilla fart?
I don't drink, so probably not.
So is that like a conscious decision to never drink, or I mean, you don't have to elaborate. But
when I was turning 18, I got Trooper beer from my dad for my first drink. That was it.
Well, Kale, nobody drinks beer for the taste of it, just to clue you in on that right now.
Yeah, but it was just that first hit was so intense and just that it was just like, cool. I'm done. This is cool.
That's how I was like cigarettes. Like, okay, so you want to actually inhale this and put this in your lungs and your mouth? No, thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
so
for me as a muso, I get enough of the high out of actually playing that I don't need to go out and seek alcohol and drugs and cigarettes and all of that to increase it. It's just like, I'm getting enough out of what I'm doing. So, you know what? You guys can. I'm good.
I have to drink to deal with my co-host mostly. It's really...
right. I mean, I'm with you, Kale, because I get to, I'm very blessed. I get to play in front of some pretty big crowds with, my cover band. But we do, my drummer and one of our two guitar players and I, we kind of like bourbon, and my drummer will always bring like a different bottle of bourbon, and we, in set breaks we'll have like a little bit of stuff, just to have a good time. And we got busted one time. A venue actually, I couldn't believe it that they were kind of being this way because they sold alcohol, but they were like, oh, you can't be doing that. Like, they heard us going, yeah, let's go do a shot. And they're like, no, you can't do that. Like, we'll shut the show down. We're like, what the hell? So the next show after that, my drummer said, hey, I got to go change my shirt. You guys want to come? And we were like, no, we don't want to see your man boobs flopping around. He's like, no, trust me. You want to watch
changing my shirt.
Yes. So we're like, he's like, no, trust me. You want to change your shirt? I was like, okay. So we go to his, the band vehicle, which is a Suburban. Of course, we call it the Bourbon because, we're bourbon guys. And he opens up the back hatch and there's a pile of T-shirts. And he looks around and pulls the T-shirts up, and there's like 3 bottles of bourbon in there. So ever since then, we've called it changing our shirt. And then, like, if it's in a set break, and my wife's like, "Where you going?" I'm like, "I'm going to the laundromat." She goes, "Oh God, here we go."
By the way, that wasn't the story I wanted you to tell when I was bringing up your crazy drinking horror stories, and I think you know the one I wanted to hear from you.
Which one?
The leg.
Oh, yeah. We got that show again. So everybody get ready to be grossed out a little bit. So we play a show, like my cover band plays in little podunk towns. It's like hillbilly hick town stuff. And there's one of the best ones it's in a little city called Cridersville. It's in Western Ohio. And it's the Firemen put it on. So they asked us to headline, and they had to unfortunately not do it the last 2 years. But this year they're doing it again, and they got us back. Well, the first year that I was in the band, and we did, I think it was like 5-6 years ago. This guy comes up to the stage, and he has a prosthetic leg, and he takes this prosthetic leg off, and he holds it up to me as I'm singing, and then in his other hand he's got a beer. He's like, "Drink a beer out of my leg," and I was like, "Okay." Like I'm one of those guys. Like, it's like, is it disgusting? Yeah, but if it's gonna get people to be like talking about the band and it's like a promotional tool, like I will do it. I'm terrible like that. So, this guy hands me a beer, and I hear my wife in the front row to my left going, "No, no, no." But I did it. I cracked the beer. I put it in this guy's leg, and I literally I shotgunned a beer out of a prosthetic leg. And the guy came back the next year. He's like, "Hey, remember me?" I'm like, "Let's do it." And now it's become a thing. To the point where it's funny that you mentioned that, because we put that show on our calendar. And that guy actually emailed the band last week and said, "Hey, man, I got the leg and the beer waiting for you." I'm like, "I'm all in, dude." The only change is that I have a book bag that I carry around me that's got like gaffer tape and Sharpies and paper and all because I don't have to do a lot of gear and stuff like that. I carry stuff that helps the band out, batteries, all that kind of stuff. Well, now if you look in my side pocket, it's got a little mini bottle of Scope. So specifically for the Cridersville Firemen's Jamboree, so that when I do that, at least I can, rinse my mouth out and still get a kiss from my wife. So
that's brilliant.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the person that walks up with a prosthetic ass. "Hey, drink a beer out of."
I'm going. Look, if I've done 2 gorilla farts and had a beer out of a prosthetic leg, I don't think a prosthetic ass would be too far behind.
No.
So, yeah.
No pun intended.
I think that would be a little bit too much. "Hey, drink a beer out my ass."
You know what's great is if people are tuning in like, "Oh man, I found this Dream Theater show. I'm gonna listen to them live."
No.
And they tune in, and this is what they get. Like, the host
Imagine
talking
if
about
this is your first episode. Imagine if this right now is your first experience of the Talking Into Infinity podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. But
don't apologize.
This Christmas.
Exactly. So yeah, if this is your first time checking out the show, trust me, it's actual Dream Theater content. Outside of this, we promise it's not all this goofy stuff. But
it's normally nowhere near this bad. It's worse.
Oh my God!
No. When we start nerding out, we start nerding out.
Yes. So So Kale, I kind of want to go back to something that we were talking about with Brandon, because Queensryche is a band that Brian and I absolutely love. I personally love them with Todd LaTorre. The 3 records they've done sound like vintage Queensryche. They're fantastic. They sound great live. Have you heard, are you a Queensryche fan, first of all?
Not massively, no.
Well, there goes that conversation topic. All right. Thanks for coming on, Kale.
I'll go along with it. What's the next part of that?
I was going to ask if you had heard the remaster of Rage for Order, and obviously you have not.
I have not. That is, I've gotten into the 2 Mind Crimes, but that's probably about it.
Oh, you got into the second Minecraft. Ugh. Really?
Well, you're the one person. I knew there was one out there.
You're that guy.
I streamed it. They didn't make much money off of it.
It's so forced. You just can't you can't just try to make something like that. It has to be like a natural thing.
Yeah. I mean, are you a fan of the first one though, Kale? I mean, at least that record.
Much more so than the second. Yes.
Okay. I don't. Have you? I know, Kale, you're not a fan, but Brian, have you seen that live Mindcrime at the Moor or whatever? They did that revamped version where they did it live, and they kind of it was almost like a stage play.
I saw it at House of Blues when they did that. Where they had the actors and actors stuff. That was awesome, man.
Oh my God, no. Are you serious right now?
The House of Blues one?
I think I've actually seen that footage, and yeah, no, I like that.
Wow. All right, so I just dumped Brian from the stream because he outside of his take on Space Dive Vest, I think he just had his worst take on the show that he's ever had. But
I'm agreeing with him.
All right, well, you're gone too, so it's going to be the John Solo show. So there we go. All right, so I'm just going to riff here for a bit because my co-hosts are completely tone deaf. All right, let's get you guys back in here. You guys are high. You guys are
no, because
high.
I literally just said I don't do drugs or booze. So
I didn't see the concert you're talking about. I saw the House of Blues show. I thought it was fucking awesome. I was very close.
It's terrible. Jeff Tate over exaggerating everything. I'm like, just sing the damn song. You're not an actor, bro. Just stop it. It was awful.
No,
that was especially when you go back and look at the original one, Live Crime. It's that kicks ass. The Live at the Moor was god awful.
Well, like I said, I didn't see that. I saw. I don't know how long ago. I mean, what are we talking? It's got to be probably 12, 15 years. They played at House of Blues. I thought it sounded great.
Well,
to be fair, though. To be fair, you can't really argue against the fact that we have Dio doing the Dr. X part, so that's kind of why I like it, because Dio...
That's the only good thing. That's the only good thing about it.
Yeah, but it's Dio.
Me say F you agrees with us about Mindcrime 2. Oh, Nick Brayman. He says, the Moore Theater in Seattle, the first meet and greet I did with DT. Now, Nick, you're going to have to comment again because you said first, so let us know if you've done multiple. Brian and I have only done one. I've interviewed them and met them, but yeah.
How old is that show you guys are talking? The Moore Theater show you're talking about, John?
Oh my God, it's early 2000s. I want to say.
Well, it might be from the same.
Yeah, so you probably did it again when Mangini came into the band. I'm guessing at that point.
Mangini wasn't in Queensryche.
I'm talking about with his first meet and greet with DT. So multiple. Go back and do it when the lineup changed.
Sorry about that. I'm looking this up right now. Okay, it was released on July 3rd of 2007.
Yeah.
So I mean, okay, so you're talking about almost 20 years after the original, but still, it's crap. It is crap.
This is something that they just put out recently, or was this put out way back then? You're saying.
How are you drunk on one beer? I just said it was put out July 3rd of 2007.
Well, no, that's when I thought you were saying that's when it was recorded.
No. Yeah, it was
recorded live over the 13th, 14th, and 15th of October in 2006.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking at the same article.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I understand what you're saying. I saw it. I thought he sounded great, and I thought it was kind of cool the visual it added. But they started. I think they did like a 10-song kind of like when we saw the Images and Words things. I think they did 6 or 8 songs or something, and then they came out and did the whole album. I thought it was really cool.
Ugh, man.
Well, see, that's something I've brought up with you before. Is I kind of like to see Dream Theater do Astonishing in that kind of style, where you do it as an actual stage show.
Oh, look at this.
There's enough character stuff in there that it could be.
Well, they have all the video. They have all the video going with it. I mean,
yeah, they've got all the video and stuff. So it'd be cool to get different voices. I mean, as much as I hate it for absolutely butchering John's solos in it, I like the version of Our New World with Lizzie Hale. It's cool to hear the female part over the Faith lyrics, you know?
I'd love to see Space Dive Vest like acted out, like, you know, chick actually wearing a Space Dive vest.
I hate you so
Yeah,
much.
but there's no characters in that. It's just, look at me, I'm Kevin Moore, I'm sad and lonely
I
because
hate
this
you
girl
so
is an
much.
advert.
All right, so Nick Brayman has clarified, man. So correct me, Kale. You might know this. I think I have my dates right. He says it was the one time. It was on the 2004 Train of Thought tour on March 2nd. If my memory serves, March 4th was the Los Angeles show where they did When Dream and Day Reunite. Did Nick miss that by just 2 days?
I think he might have.
I really think that's the date, man. I hope my memory serves me correctly, but I actually have the I had the DVD over there, but I loaned it to Brian, so Brian would be the one to go tell us whether or not I am correct. But
Let me go put it in real quick.
yeah, man, you guys, man,
Really?
That was a terrible representation of that record.
Did you were you at the show or no? Probably not.
No, because okay, so in the same way that, you know, Lars Ulrich has ruined Metallica for me, the Queensryche records from Here in the Now Frontier until, you know, Tate left kind of ruined them for me, so I didn't go see it because I didn't want to see all the new.
They didn't play anything new on that. That was strictly we're coming out and playing, like I said, a greatest hits and then Mindcrime. But
yeah,
missed it by. Sorry, when did you say he saw him?
Was it? He saw him on March 2nd of 2004.
Missed him by 4 days.
It was March 6th. Okay, I was close. Okay, all right. So, all right. Well, look at that, Nick. You missed like a legendary Dream Theater show by 4 days. Should have just waited 4 days and driven down to Los Angeles. You might have met Charlie Dominici and Derek Sherinian as well.
I have a question for you, John, and for
Okay.
you too. Well, maybe not for Kale because it depends. Are we going to do? Can we do a top 10 least favorite Dream Theater songs?
Ooh,
as an
that'd be
episode or not?
hard. I mean, I'll weigh in, but
Because if we can't,
I can
mean,
give
if
you
we're
10
not
songs.
gonna-
I couldn't rank them.
Well, let's not do 10. I'm saying if we're gonna do that episode, then I don't really want to spoil like a couple here. What do you think, John?
I'm gonna say no, and the reason being is that I don't want to get into like negative topics. Like I reposted,
Yeah, fair enough.
you know, on social media today about tonight, and when I mentioned the fans are,
Well, I don't think
gonna
it's
jump on-
negative. I mean, I think it's like it's interesting to see the points of view on it. You know,
No,
what is it
well-
you don't like about it? You know.
Well, truth be told, there's only one Dream Theater song that I skip, and I'm saving that for when we do that records deep dive. So I wouldn't
right.
be able to, you know, I wouldn't be able to have 10 of them because it's like, even if me say F you says if we were doing that, every song on The Astonishing.
Wrong.
So me say F you, maybe you should send us an email at talkingintoinfinity@gmail.com and jump on camera right now and we can hash it out about
Oh,
The
I
Astonishing.
would love this. Come on, do it.
Oh my Lord.
It would be.
hilarious.
I could probably in 40 minutes I could come up with a top 10 of least favorite. And it doesn't mean that they're all bad songs. It just means I'm like,
Look at this. Gibson Les Paul, what is up, man? Good to see you. He asks, is it on Systematic Chaos? I can neither confirm nor
we
deny.
Can't, we got to be careful what we say if we're going to do this later.
Yeah, I can neither confirm nor deny. So take that
Is it
as
a
you
song
will.
that was on your gateway lists?
No, this would be again. It's the one I'd skip. So it's definitely, you know, it's not a gateway. I'd be like, yeah. If I had a skip list, there's only one. There's only one.
Actually, I've got a really good cop out here.
Okay. All right.
Is it an actual song?
Yes, it is.
Because otherwise, I'm thinking like any of the Nomad tracks.
Oh no. That's just you know what? Screw it. You know what? Since
that's
it's
a
a
Jake
fan
thing.
hangout.
No, don't do it, John. Don't.
No, because I like. No, I can do it because I like the.
No.
I like.
I want to save it.
Look at this Gibson Les Paul.
Don't say
It's
it.
Repentance or Ministry of Lost Souls.
We're not
without-
answering that.
I'll put money on it.
I go
How do I
Repentance
mute
of the
you?
Zoo, but...
Kale,
No, don't
what
talk
was
about it.
what was your take?
What? Huh?
What you said? What did you think it was?
If it's gonna be one of those two, I'd think probably more Repentance than Minister.
All right. You know, Brian, I'm giving it away because I like I like the record. It is Repentance. I cannot stand that song. That song it's the one Dream Theater song that just drones on to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just not, the first time I heard it, I was like, all right, get to the point, guys. Like, I love the band. Obviously, I host a podcast about them. I love it. But that song is just, and, you know, I can tolerate everything else. Ministry of Lost Souls, by the way, that is another one I'm not a big fan of, but I'll listen to it.
That's
Repentance,
actually Brand's ringtone. I don't know if she brought that up. Yeah.
Oh, no, okay.
The last lead bit, the bone.
Okay.
Yeah. Every time my phone goes off.
Yep. Gibson Les Paul. He says, I called it. Yes, you did, man.
You called one of two.
That's okay though. I mean, they got 15 studio records. I mean, if he whittled it down to 2, you know, he whittled it down to the record and then the songs. Like,
that's a good call.
That song is just like, I mean, I have no problem with the 12-step suite because there's some great songs in there, and you know, I get Portnoy is doing his creative thing with, you know,
I like it in the context of that because I mean, after you've had Glass Prison, Dying Soul, Rid of All Evil, I mean, I'm wearing a shirt.
Right.
I saw that show.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay, very cool.
I think I have to say
he actually came to Perth in my lifetime of being a fan. Unlike Dream Theater, who will never come again based on that one show in 2008.
Right.
Yeah, they came here on Australia Day one year.
No kidding.
Played the Crown Theatre. But if you know much about Australia Day in Perth, there's huge sky shows, all sorts of fireworks displays. They closed the car park. So people had to park miles and miles away and walk. Nice. And then it was that hot that year that the power tripped.
So did it stop the show?
Power outage. No, they came back for the second act.
Okay.
And stopped after, I think, 5 songs into the second set.
Well, did you miss Repentance?
They weren't playing at that tour, I don't think.
Oh, if it was Shattered Fortress, but
this was Dream Theater in 2008.
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry.
on Systematic. Yeah, no, saw it on the Shattered Fortress shows, and Mike sang it, which was cool.
Ugh. That's not. No, that song can just.
But outside of that context, it's like, yeah, I don't need to hear this. This is fine.
It's not. Like, I get it. Like, he's bringing friends on to, you know, he had, like, Stephen Wilson was the guy that doesn't like Dream Theater and kind of went on and he, you know, because they've got all those recorded parts about people saying, oh, I was a dickhead to this person or I did this, that, and the other. Like, yeah. And Stephen Wilson kind of, like, apologized for being a prick about Dream Theater in the press because, you know, they're big fans of theirs and he kind of crapped on them. But
I'm here today to confess to you that what I did was wrong.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, my God. Like, Let's move on, please. Like I get it, but that's the one song
going on after that. That's just like, okay.
I've tried to listen to it again over and over, and I can't. I'm just like, ugh. But Gibson Les Paul says Vacant takes the cake as worst Dream Theater song for me. That one's hard for me to complain about because it is just kind of like a cello, and it's almost like a somber, dark wait for sleep in a way. It's kind of like that little, you know, cleanse your palate song, you know, near the end of a record.
Intro says something, really.
Yeah. Brian, do you have a least favorite?
Well, we did our deep dive.
Keep going. Sorry. Keep going.
When we did our deep dive on that album, I think we kind of came to the conclusion, like, okay, what is this even kind of doing on here? I don't know that I buy that it's an intro. It might be. It doesn't have near the melodic power that Waits for Sleep does. That's not even close.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
It's just kind of a piece of music. I don't know. I almost don't even consider it a Dream Theater song, you know?
Well,
really?
I see it as the intro to Stream of Consciousness because it's building on that.
Yeah, no,
that's hard to argue.
Building on that exactly, and then boom into the guitar. And
I understand that. It's a little too goofy to even be on that album, I think. But whatever.
Yeah, and I don't know. the fact it's on Train of Thought, it's off.
I feel like it should be on like Octavarium or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels weird on Train of Thought for sure.
And then here's the other problem with it, is watching the score set list, and that's the one song off of Train of Thought. Just that.
Well, I have to admit, when I was there, I was wondering, like, what are they going to do? Because, they have this full orchestra, and I'm like, okay, so what are they going to do from Train of Thought? Because there's not really anything that they could do. And so when they busted out Vacant, I was like, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah, when you told me that was on there, I was floored because I never really, sat down and paid much attention to that concert. You were obviously there, but I was like, what? Wait, they played Vacant?
Yeah.
But I mean, there's also a lot of orchestration that they can do in
sure.
consciousness.
Yep.
So why not do both bits while you got them there?
Yeah,
Good point.
you'd made that point before, and I would agree with you on that one. That's a very good opinion. The only
That's
other one,
literally the only thing I'd change about that show.
I don't think I would even change Vacant, because I think, as much as it's not a song that you go back to a lot, I think it's definitely something when you see it live with just James and a cello. It's something cool to see live. It's one of those like live.
Yeah.
It's cool, and you're like, oh wow, this is so intimate and stuff like that. But yeah, on record, no, not so much.
It's so
Actually,
quick.
speaking of score, we watched that documentary last night.
Yes.
Around the 43-minute mark, there's a dude with a very similar voice and a Majesty tattoo on top of what looks like a 5150. So, thinking that might be you up there.
About 75 pounds lighter than John.
It
Sorry,
really
by
was.
75, I mean 80.
No.
Just kidding.
It really was, man. Yeah, that was, and you can also see me in the very end when they show that panoramic view of the crowd in the lobby. If you look like pretty close to the middle, like you could see me jumping up and down. Like if you see a guy jumping up, it's only for a split second that they show that shot. But yeah, that's me jumping up and down too. So yeah, that's like my little claim to fame. And then my name is in the back of the souped up version of Lifting Shadows, the Rich Wilson biography. So we are about to have a debate.
Oh,
so
Wait. I love debates.
Me Say F.U. has taken us up on our offer. So we are bringing on Me Say F.U. His name is up as Steven Gonzalez, and we are going to debate The Astonishing. What is up, man?
What's up, guys?
Good evening.
All right.
Good morning, wherever you
Good
are.
evening and good morning to you, Kel. Yes.
So where are you at? Where are you at, man?
Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Oh,
very
that's
cool.
nice.
Okay. So you're an hour behind us. Okay, so right now it's 7:47 your time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh,
So
Lord, it's 9:47 for me.
so you accepted the challenge. I love this. So you wanted to debate The Astonishing. So you are the new guest host, so you have the floor. You start us off, man.
I mean, in my opinion, it's just not the best of much at all. I don't have a worst album, but this one would be my worst album because it's just not great in my opinion. I mean, the music's good. The storyline is horrible. I just don't know what else to say. I like the old school stuff. I like, anything, from Awake. I like anything from, Infinity. And, those are two of my favorite ones.
Good call on Infinity. Okay.
The 6 Degrees. I followed that, in 3 different states, so that one, was an awesome one to me as well.
So to get more of your perspective, what are your thoughts? So you love the old stuff. What are your thoughts on the newest album? I'm curious.
I like it.
Okay.
When it first came on, I listened to it probably 3 different times all the way through, and I was like, well, it doesn't seem overmade, over-engineered. The drumming kind of chilled down a little bit. I'm gonna be honest, not the biggest Mangini. I like Portnoy. But I think Mangini would just pushed and was just trying too hard. And I think this time he finally just said, you know what, I'm going to relax. I'm going to beat the hell out of these, out of the skins. And, this one's, I like it.
Okay.
It's good.
Wow.
I was curious for a frame of reference. So before John chimes in and tells you you're insane about the Astonishing.
Hey, look, Gibson Les Paul agrees with me, man. Gibson Les Paul says the Astonishing is superb, so I am not alone. I'm not dying on a hill
all
here.
right, you'll get your chance. Hang on. So I will continue to debate this to this day, that the Astonishing is in no way, shape, or form a Dream Theater album. It is a borderline John Petrucci solo album. And maybe you could call it a Petrucci Labrie album, even though I know Jordan Rudess had a huge part in writing and did all the orchestration, all the piano parts. And they're great. It's still the two things that, probably stand out the most are the fact that Petrucci wrote the entire thing, produced it,
right.
Basically his entire idea. So I do not think to this day that it's a Dream Theater album. And I can see why people, have, I don't know if disdain is the word, but they just, it's going to probably always end up with probably the hardcore, progressive, like rock kind of fans that they have. It's probably almost always going to finish last. And that's okay, but
it's fantasy come true, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like I said, it's still Dream Theater. It's music. It's just not my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, within that is the point. It's Dream Theater. We're finally getting a Dream Theater album, aren't we? I mean, if you want to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, got to give you that, yes.
But that's my point. Is it's not
finally living up to their name.
Well, that's true. You're right. Yeah, in a literal sense, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yes.
So Rock and Roll Podcast. Again, hope you get better soon, buddy. He says I like the album, so he's a fan. So all right. So now, do we call you me? Say F you, or do we call you Steve? What are we going with?
Call me Steven.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's just my my handle, and
it's fantastic.
I don't do a lot of Facebook, and so I get on there just to see some family and stuff like that. So that's why I'm coming incognito.
Well,
I love how you get in Facebook prison for calling some pervert a wanker, and yet he's allowed to just go around calling himself me say F you.
Right. All right, so I have to ask you, Steven. So what you mentioned that you think the story is crap. Like, what about the story do you not like?
I guess it's just the fantasy. I don't, I'm not into that any of that dystopian stuff. And
okay,
my wife, she'd probably love the story. She just can't stand, the long music. We've taken her to mini concerts herself, and hell, she fell asleep in the middle of a concert. I'm like, how do you do that? It's just not my thing. It's 15, 20-minute songs. I was like, exactly. There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, to be fair, that ending is kind of weak, isn't it? I mean, Him of a Thousand Voices basically is the musical equivalent of Somehow Palpatine Returned. Amazingly, the Savior found his voice. How? He literally just blew the thing out. Oh, by the way, she's alive. How? Also, yeah, you literally killed your sister like 5 minutes ago. We were distraught. She's alive. You know what? You're fine. Cool. On your merry way. It's just like, how do we let this happen?
The funny part is I've listened to pretty much every single one of y'all's episodes. I found it. I think it was 4 deep, and I just kind of hit all 4 of them back to back, and just listened to every 2 weeks since then. And then every time you guys would discuss a certain album or anything like that, I pause the podcast and then listen to the whole album just to kind of get it back in control. And just to re-listen to everything, and I was like, yeah, there's a lot of truth to what these guys are saying. Not that I
cool.
agree with every single thing that you guys say,
of course.
But
even I don't.
But I'd listen to it and I'd be like, yeah, that is true. I've never really thought of it that way.
That's
so
awesome, man. Thank you.
When y'all talked about the Astonishing, I was like, I'm going to give it another try. And it took me about 2 days to listen to it. To and from work, I worked about an hour and a half away from where I live, so.
Ooh. That's a shitty commute.
Yeah, exactly. No longer doing that, unfortunately, but it's not of my choice. But yeah, I listened to it. I'm like, man, I just can't do it. I just can't get into this story. It's just, it's just kind of, yeah.
Some people can't dig it, man.
There are some major plot holes in it. I'll give you that.
So Nick Brayman says, I saw The Astonishing live after not really getting into that album. It is a grower and now one of my favorites, which I defend all of the time. A Life Left Behind into Raven's Kill is a highlight for me. But I do agree It should have been a side project thing for Petrucci, maybe not a Dream Theater album. Production is great on that one as well. I would agree with that. And Gibson Les Paul says some of the catchiest hooks and melodies Dream Theater ever created are on The Astonishing. The hooks on Road to Revolution and Brother Can You Hear Me are immediately memorable. I would agree with that too. I think, Steve, it's kind of like, I will give you this. I think at times the album might get a little bit repetitive. It's like, okay, here's a song. Now here's a mellow intro. Now here's a song. Now here's a mellow intro. Now here's a song. So, I mean,
check it out. Here's some ballads.
Yeah.
I like a lot of this album too. Oh my God.
I just, for me though, man, like I love it. And I said it earlier tonight, and I've said it, pretty much whenever it comes up. I think it's such a ballsy decision. I mean, we're living in an age of like Spotify and downloads. People aren't buying CDs and
right.
cassettes and vinyl, and to say, hey, here's 2.5 hours. Like, if you want to get the whole experience, you got to sit there and listen for 2.5 hours. Like, that's the most Dream Theater thing they could ever do. It's like Luke Skywalker dying at the end of The Last Jedi. Like, he made the most ultimate Jedi movie you could ever make.
Right.
And
yet, does at the end of that movie?
Hey, you know what? It's been out. Look, it's
Dude, I watch your podcast. Obviously, I know that.
It's been out for 4 years, man. The spoiler ban is off. But man, so is there?
It's just
Sorry.
terrible.
No, go ahead, man.
The only concert that I did not go to of Dream Theaters, and I've seen them since. Golly, my first one was shit. I mean, it wasn't the Majesty album. My mind just totally went blank.
Images or Awake?
Images, yeah.
Man, you've seen them since then, huh?
Ever since then, and I've seen them at that concert. It was in a freaking parking lot in Dallas at a rock and roll club. It's no longer in Dallas.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, these guys are freaking awesome.
No kidding. So how did you discover the band? Was it through Pull Me Under?
Pull Me Under. Heard it on out here. It's called 97.1 The Eagle. It's the only rock and roll station we have out there. Unfortunately, I mean, we're in Dallas, freaking Texas, and we got one rock and roll station. Kind of sucks, but they played it on there. And I just wore that CD out in my truck, and then they came, and I was like, I've got to see these guys live.
I'm actually familiar with 97.1 because my cousin, God rest his soul, he passed away last year, but he lived in Dallas. And when I went down there for his wedding, I was like, man, I got to get some tunes going. And it was 97.1. So I'm very familiar with that, man. So,
now they play alternative rock and rock and roll together. It's like, come on, guys. What happened to like Z-Rock back in the day where there's an actual, headbanging thrash metal and stuff like that.
So what are your other top 3 bands besides Dream Theater?
King's X.
King's X. Okay, yeah, that's a Texas thing.
Yeah,
sure.
those guys are freaking awesome.
Yep.
Queensryche, of course.
Awesome.
And of course all the side projects of Sons of Apollo, things like that.
Awesome.
Yes. I'm old school. I like a lot of the older stuff. I'm
cool.
Get ready to hit 50, so. I'm from the old school rock.
Already there, buddy.
Do have one question based on your Texas show to kind of tie into the last episode. Was that with Galactic Cowboys? That's the opening act.
If they were in a parking lot, I would say probably not. Am I correct in saying that?
That one was they were by themselves.
Okay.
Galactic Cowboys was the next one. They came with that was with the Megadeth tour. When they came with Galactic Cowboys, Megadeth, who else was there? There was about 4 or 5 bands on that one.
Sweet.
And that
look at this.
That was Infinity.
Okay.
Maybe.
Look at this. We have our first ever female commenter, Kristen Goodwin. Wait, they played in Dallas, Texas? Haha, so good. Sons of Apollo has been my jams. That is awesome. And look at that. And her profile picture, for those of you who are just listening to the audio replay, is a selfie with her boyfriend or husband, and in the background is John Petrucci pointing at their camera. So that is badass.
That is actually badass.
Yeah. And she says, I have Dream Theater tattoos all over my body. I swear. Wow.
Awesome.
Wow, that guy's got a catch. My wife has Star Wars tattoos all over, so there you go. Oh, she said that's her dad. Okay. Well, that is kick ass. That is kick ass, Kristen. Thank you for tuning in. So, yeah, man. So King's X, I know Brian, you're a big fan of that. Like, and you said
Oh,
like
yeah.
the side projects. Like, so Kristen, you are welcome. So, what are your thoughts on Sons of Apollo? I know it's a Dream Theater podcast, but I think a lot of us like Sons of Apollo, even though it might be some dirty words on a Dream Theater show. But
I love it.
Very great.
I mean, it rocks. There's, all those guys in that band. There's nothing, you can say bad about them. Bumfeet, I mean, that dude just jams and rocks. You got Billy Sheehan on the bass. I mean, I've seen that guy back in the day, with David Lee Roth and everything like that.
oh, you're speaking my
Back with-
language.
with Steve Vai and everything. I mean, yeah, those guys just rock. The singer, he sounds like the guy that you used to sing with, and he might be. I don't know. I've never dove deep down into it. That used to sing with Yngwie Malmsteen back in the day.
That's
him.
exactly who he is. Yep, that's exactly who he
Okay,
is.
yeah.
And he was
I've
with
seen
Journey
Yngwie.
for a bit, I think.
Yeah, man. I can't believe how bad Journey screwed that guy. Like, they never acknowledged him. Like, he wasn't in there. For
I saw
very
that
long,
show
but-
at Blossom when he played with them. He sounded amazing.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that in the kitchen
Yeah.
at work, because Brian. A little behind the scenes here. Brian and I know each other because we used to work together at the same company. He's still there. My department got eliminated, so it's been years. But like, yeah, I remember you mentioning that you had been, and that was the first time I really had talked to anybody that I knew the name Jeff Scott Soto, but I had never talked to anybody that had seen him. And you were like, dude, they got this guy Jeff Scott Soto. I'm like, okay, I know the name. And you told me that he was kick ass, so you kind of put him on my radar. So
Yeah, he's on the first two Yngwie albums, and I think there's like some crazy demo out there somewhere that maybe even before Yngwie got signed, he might be on. But
Okay.
I mean, Jeff Scott
I knew
Soto's
I knew
on.
the voice.
He's on so many. He's on a cool album called, I want to say Soul Circus. It's actually Neil Schon, which is I think maybe how he ended up in Journey at one point. But it's Jeff Scott Soto and Neil Schon, and I can't remember who else. But it's a cool mix of just radio friendly hard rock.
So all right,
And
so
he's on the No Star One as well with Ross Jennings as well, which is really cool.
yeah.
If you haven't heard of Star One, check them out. They are
I'll have to look that
insanely
one up.
good.
All right. So, Steven, you're being called out by Gibson Les Paul. He says, picks or get the out. So there you
What does that mean?
Get the
Yeah. He wants pictures of the early Dream Theater tours.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Man, I mean, hell, we didn't have cell phones back then.
So what okay,
that's,
so
that's a bit of an ask.
so you have seen pretty much every tour they've done, because they did not tour for When Dream and Day Unite. So
Exactly.
of all the tours, what was the best you ever saw them? Which tour?
Oh, golly. I would have to say that would be 6 Degrees.
Nice. Yeah, I kind of thought this 6 Degrees or Train of Thought for me was, I the best sound I ever heard from them was actually on the Train of Thought tour here in Cleveland, and I saw them at a place called the Agora, and that album is like bass heavy.
Yeah.
And the sound
awesome.
was bass heavy. Yeah, the
Yeah,
sound
it's
actually
deep.
translated. It was, and I was in the balcony. I was in like one of the little booths. I got like, I'd been hooked up with like the Richie Rich seats. But man, it was even up there. Like, I wasn't on the floor in front of the bins or anything, and it was thunderous. I'm like, this fucking rocks. Pardon my F-bomb, but man, oh man.
Did they even
Yeah,
have an
we-
opener for that or no?
Train
of Thought?
No, 6 Degrees.
Yes.
No, 6 Degrees was the first time they did the evening with.
Just the evening.
Parts
Okay.
of the tour were with opening acts though, wasn't it?
Not
I
when
don't
I saw
remember
them.
an opening act. And actually,
it
no,
was-
that's untruth. I seen him in San Francisco, no opening act in San Francisco. Then coming down back to Texas, Oklahoma, they had an opening act. King's X, actually. Coming
Yeah.
to Dallas, they had an opening act, King's X. And then down in Austin, their opening act was Joe Satriani.
Nice.
Yes, that's yeah. I was
Oh, Satch open for them. I always thought it was the
yeah.
other
So
way around.
good memory, Stephen. Because as soon as you mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah. Because when I saw him in Chicago, that was my first time being out of town to see him. It was an evening with, but when on the second leg, that's like I told the story on my solo show when I actually interviewed and met James. It was when they were playing with Queensryche. So Satriani opened, and then Queensryche played, and then Dream Theater. So
Okay.
and by the way, so our new friend Kristen, I have been corrected. Gibson Les Paul pics or get the out, he meant that for Kristen. So
Oh, the tattoos.
he's not believing her on the tattoos.
Okay,
He's not believing her on the tattoos. So
He just wants to see some
Do we
skin.
need to bring her on screen to do this?
right, yeah.
It's a family-friendly show, PG-13.
So I have to bring this one up because I'm a Van Halen guy. Gibson Les Paul says DLR was literally the worst performance by a member of a big band that I've ever seen in my life. Shockingly bad. Love Yngwie, by the way. Gibson Les Paul, I have to assume that you're talking about like the recent Van Halen tours, because that was absolute dog shit warmed over. But back in the day, Steven, you saw him on the Skyscraper tour you're talking about, I think.
Yeah.
Or did you see him on Eat 'em and Smile too?
Eat 'em and Smile and Skyscraper.
Oh my God, really?
Because I mean, it was after Van Halen. There's like, David Lee Roth was still a badass back then. You had to kind of just deal with whatever he had, and it was either that or what was it, that lounge music that he came out with? Nah.
Yeah. All right. So here's the question. You're risking getting booted here.
All right.
David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar?
Sammy Hagar.
Oh, we now have a third co-host for the show, Brian. You're hired, Steven. Yes.
Sammy's a badass.
I don't see how you can ever pick one out of those. It's too.
Wait, are we talking about in terms
And Brian
of
gets
actually,
dumped again. Brian gets dumped again, ladies and gentlemen. Brian
Are we
gets
talking
dumped
about
again.
at the prime of their time in Van Halen, or are we talking about in terms of altogether?
Okay, so here's my take, and I'll let you guys debate. I love all Van Halen because the record that got me into music, the first rock album I ever heard, changed my life, was 1984. I was 8 years old, and so I was super into it. And then, of course, 2 years later was 5150. So, I noticed there was a difference in the singer, but I still loved it. So I was right at that point. I was super impressionable. I just thought, Eddie Van Halen was everything to me. Still is.
Oh yeah.
So to me, Eddie was the attraction. I didn't care who was singing.
Absolutely.
But as I've gotten older, whenever people ask me this question, I always say I prefer the Sammy stuff by the slightest margin. It's all great to me because I love Eddie's guitar playing. I love how it's two different styles of music. But I have the slightest preference for the Sammy stuff, and it might be because like Dave is a dick, and I've met Sammy and interviewed him. Actually, one of my tiny little claims to fame is I was one of the first quote unquote journalists on the planet to get Sammy. Well, I was interviewing for a music magazine.
They have like a big hat that says press on it.
Well, no, but I don't know how to phrase it. I really don't know how to phrase it. But
I'm just
like,
picturing it.
I was interviewing Sammy for a music magazine, and I was one of the first people on the planet that got him on tape saying, "Yeah, you know what? I would consider reuniting with Van Halen," and this was in 2002. So Sammy he's a really cool guy. And like you said, like Steven, you said, he rocks. He still sounds great, you know.
I mean, he's 70 something right now. Jamming in Cabo. I mean,
you know what's funny? He literally is 10 days older than my dad, and my dad is having problems. He's got diabetes, and can't get around very good. And I see my dad, all beat up and nearing the end. And then there's Sammy, like you said, out in Cabo, just getting drunk and rocking, and
exactly.
All right, so Kristen Goodwin messaged us. The Facebook messaged us her tattoo pictures. Let's see what the comments are saying. I'll let you guys dig into this.
Oh boy.
So Gibson Les Paul says Hagar easy. Nick Brayman says Big Trouble off of Eat 'em and Smile is great. Vi, baby. Yeah, Steve Vai kicks ass.
I think Eat 'em and Smile is criminally sort of forgotten and underrated.
Rock and Roll Podcast, by the way, goes with Hagar. And Nick Brayman. Speaking of underrated, and we'll get to your point, Brian. You are next. Even though one more bad take, and I'm booting you for good. Nick Brayman, this is great. Beluga Ethereum always gives me goosebumps. That is an awesome take.
Absolutely.
Yes, that is awesome. He does. It's the official recorded version of him doing the elephant and all the animal sounds at the end when it sounds like a jungle. Like that is fantastic. So
it's just such a good song, though. It's a killer instrumental.
Yep. All right, Brian. So, Eat 'em and Smile is underrated. You have the floor. I've filibustered enough.
I was going to go back to something before that. I mean, Van Halen 1 is a groundbreaking, greatest rock album of all time in terms of tone and how it sounds and the songs and the power and the emotion. And then all they did was turn around and put out Van Halen 2, which is just, I mean, every equally bit is amazing. That's why it's really hard when someone comes on and says, "Oh, Hagar by far." It's like, come on. I mean, that's just asinine to me. Like, I mean,
so what about all of the covers that they do? And I never knew they did that many covers. Until,
but they sound great doing them. You know, I mean, Diver Down has a ton of covers, but like the original stuff on there, I was called out on Facebook on a chat I was on about, you know, like, well, look at this crap that's on Diver Down. I went back and listened to this stuff again that like wasn't the covers. I'm like, oh my God, this is absolutely amazing. The guitar stuff on this.
Well, I was just about to say Hang 'em High, Full Bug, and
Full Bug.
Secrets.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And the song. Thank you. That is one of my all-time favorite Van Halen songs.
Mine too.
Yeah. Yep. It's funny we're talking about Van Halen because literally just yesterday at work, I was like, you know what? I haven't played Van Halen Guitar Hero in a bit, and I started looking up stuff on eBay to buy it again because I've got a PS4 up here in my man cave, but downstairs we've got my old PS3, and that's what my wife uses for all the apps and stuff like Netflix and everything. And I'm like, you know what? I could seriously buy a guitar. I could buy a guitar and the game, and I could still play Van Halen Guitar Hero. Like, I sucked at it, but, you know. Kristen Goodwin says her phone is dying, but I'll come back after I charge my phone. Love this podcast, absolute fire. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, man. Hopefully you tune in the future, too, man. It's good to meet you. Thanks for checking the show out. Gibson Les Paul, I have a hard time with rock arena bands with a singer that cannot sing. DLR completely takes me out of those albums. He was never a great singer, but I think he was fine on the records, and I think he was fine back in the 80s.
Yeah.
But the reunion tour, like the first reunion tour was good. I actually saw them opening night on the second reunion tour in Louisville, Kentucky, and it was good because he was fresh. But the other ones I've seen were
2007 or different kind of truth tour?
No, I 2007 I saw them. And then the different kind of truth tour, I saw opening night in Louisville, Kentucky, and he was fine because it was, you know, he was fresh. But other than that, like, I mean, I saw him, you know, in Cleveland again a couple times, and I actually drove to see the Rock USA Festival, Rock US Festival in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, in 2013, and it was with, God, this is a crazy story too. God, I was drunk. I took out an entire row of seats falling over. So. It was a local band opened, and then it was Dokken, Jackal, and Rat opening for Van Halen. And
that's a good bill.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was funny. So I'll tell the story. And we'll get back to the point. But so my buddy Aiken, who he heads up the CMS network, he actually is Dokken's webmaster, and his co-host Neely on the Classic Metal Show. Neely is best friends with Don Dokken, so we got the tickets for free and backstage passes. So we were hanging out in the trailer backstage with Don Dokken and the guys and stuff like that. And Don was on site. They didn't have a stage manager, and in the back, in his trailer, he was like, "Hey, you guys want a drink? Like, I got a bottle of Jack and some Coke over there." Like Coca-Cola, not like cocaine. And I was like, yeah. And I was so hyped up to be with Rockstars. I'm the biggest fanboy ever. I'm terrible with this stuff. And I started drinking the Jack, and I started getting pretty tore up. And the Dokken was supposed to go on after the local band, which floored me that Jackal was not, lower on the bill than Dokken, but that was not the case. And Don's like, man, these guys got to get off. Like, they're not getting off stage. And I'm like, well, we're like, where's the stage manager? Like, we don't have one. And I went, I'll do it.
That's the problem.
Yeah. I said, I'll do it. And my buddy Aiken, he's a really big dude. He's like over 400 pounds. And his best friend Scotty is a really big guy like that as well. And Scotty was with us. And I was like, I'll do it. He's like, really? All right, yeah, get him off stage. I was like, okay. And I'm drunk. And I mean, this is like a national stage. Like, there's like 40, 50,000 people at this show. And it's like the scaffolding and everything. And my drunk ass just goes marching up on the back of this stage. And these guys like come up to me like, hey, who are you? I'm like, I'm Dokken's stage manager. Who the hell are you? And they went, they were kind of like looking at me like, really? And I was like, yeah. And I was so nervous to get caught, but I was also like, I'm like, if I play the part, like they're buying it, so I'm gonna keep going. I was like, yeah, I'm Doc and stage manager. Like these guys were supposed to be off like 20 minutes ago, and they were like, no, they're not. And I was like, yeah, they were. And they bring me over to the stage plot on the back, and they point, and they weren't supposed to be done. And they're like, see, they're supposed to be done at like 3:30. I said, that's not the schedule that we were given. This is not the schedule that we were given. So you're going to need to cut a couple songs because Dokken has to get their stuff off. We need a changeover. So you're going to have to. Again, this is not what we were given. This is contractually not what we were given. These guys all of a sudden, because I was so serious, they were like taking me seriously. So they totally bought it. They booted this poor local band off. Like they only ended up cutting one song, so I wasn't a huge dick or anything. And then on the way off, like I literally walked past Eddie's guitar rig, like behind the scenes Eddie's guitar rig. Like he had a picture of Wolfgang on it. He had a whole bunch of guitar picks and stuff, and all of his guitars in a guitar boat. Like you would think it's this big, massive thing. It's not. It's like what a local band would have. It was fascinating. And my wife kicks my ass to this day. But if you're watching the video replay, I stole Eddie's backup pick off of his rig, and this is it right here. So this is Eddie Van Halen's actual backup pick from the Oshkosh, Wisconsin Rock USA Festival in 2013. So, yeah. So that's my little story there. And I can confirm that when people say, "Oh, they were totally getting along," you could tell on stage. Like, no, they weren't. They had separate tour buses that showed up at different times. The Van Halens were on one bus, and David Lee Roth was on the other. They had separate shitters. They had separate dressing rooms, and they had separate porta potties. They were next to each other, but they were taped off with pink tape, and it literally was written on the pink tape like DLR only, and the other one said Van Halen's only. So
that's some rock and roll segregation right there, man.
Yes. So that's why, like anybody, you guys probably aren't friends with me on Facebook, but when I get into arguments with people on these Van Halen pages, I'm like, dude, they weren't getting along. Like they hated each other. Like I don't know if they hated each other, but they traveled separately, they changed clothes separately, and they pissed and shit separately. So
literally.
Yeah.
Fair warning, everyone's got their own shitter.
Really? Is that what you did? Did you just go with the Van Halen pun?
I did.
We are not going to start that.
Were you like when you're getting that band off? Like, look, guys, literally Paris is burning. You have to get off the stage.
Brian could do this all day long, man.
I guess here's the joke for that situation. What do you call the guy that hangs out with a bunch of world-class musicians?
Who?
David Lee Roth.
All right. So back to Dream Theater, Steven. Do you have a favorite record?
Favorite record would probably be, like I said, 6 Degrees.
Okay. Oh, I did ask you that, man. See, those the gorilla farts are kicking in.
That one's all right,
Yeah. That record is interesting because
it's got a little bit of everything in it. It goes up, it goes down, it goes in between.
Yep.
You could be in a bad mood and just listen to the melodic parts of that. You could just be in just a psyched out mood and hear the hard parts of it. And every time it's just something different. Love it.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the most incredible things to me, and Brian and Cale chime in here, one of the most incredible things to me about that record is that it comes off the back of Scenes from a Memory, which is pretty much universally hailed as number 1A 1B with Images and Words with most fans.
Right.
And after a record that was that successful, you have to come out with something to follow it up to really justify what they were doing, which is self-producing, and and instead they kind of do another mini concept record. They do a double album, and they put out something that was absolutely phenomenal. So I think that really cemented that middle part of their career. The quality of that record. Steven, start with you, and then Cale and Brian chime in here. Where do you stand on that? That was a really incredible follow-up to Scenes from a Memory.
For me, it's like you just said, you don't expect it to be as good as that last one, and then, in my opinion, that much better. And so, it just like blows your mind. And live, same thing. You get to see them, and you're like, man, we just seeing these, and heck, when was it? A year and a half ago when they did the 20 year reunion on Scenes from a Memory. went to see that, and that thing was just mind blowing in itself. It's like, dude, this is fucking awesome.
Yep. All right, so Brian and Kale, where do you stand on 6 Degrees as a follow up to Scenes?
You start, bro.
I think that's the first time that, and I think in the book, Lifting Shadows, it even kind of says like they pushed themselves before hard, but I think they pushed themselves past the point of just, anything they'd ever done before. And I think that was their whole focus, was like, we are so damn driven and to write this thing, to produce this thing, and just to make this incredible, double album or whatever. And like you said, it is kind of weird because it comes off one of their best albums and one of the coolest concept albums ever of all time in my book. But it's like, let's push ourselves even more. Like, really? like, I don't know. Just to even think about it in that concept is kind of like scary, like how driven they were to especially, I think, Portnoy driving a lot of this.
Yep. Kale?
I'm torn to this day, which I like more out of Scenes or 6 Degrees. It is the follow-up that album needed. I don't think he could have done Scenes from Memory into Octavarium. I don't think it would have worked. But that, to me, is reaction based on, hey, you guys like this part, you like this part, you like this part. Let's take that, do what we do, and make an album out of that. And they did, and it's brilliant. And they finally get the double album that they wanted to do with Falling Into Infinity. They finally get to push for the longest songs, knowing that it's going to work. I think it's, Scenes from a Memory was, as 2112 was, and Moving Pictures was to Rush. It's, hey, we can do what we want. It works. We've got enough fans to support that. And I think, 6 Degrees was just like, hey, remember all that shit we wanted on the album before the last one? We got it. It works.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So Gibson Les Paul says 6 Degrees was a bit of a disappointment following Scenes from a Memory at the time for me. Now, though, I think it far surpasses Scenes from Memory. Scenes has depreciated some for me over the years. I may be speaking for you.
Maybe.
Yeah, I would disagree. I think that is a fantastic example of a record that is excellent when you first hear it, and it has remained excellent. It has staying power. Yeah, and a lot of times with albums, if it's an immediate listen, it tends to not age well. But I think that is one of those albums that, bucks that trend. It's when I first heard it, I was like, holy shit. And to this day, when I listen to it, you get done with it and you're like, holy shit. And so I love it. I love it. And, I think, like you said, it's a toss up between the two. I mean, it's like
they're
pizza.
both great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Steven, obviously when we were bringing up the least favorite Dream Theater song, the reason we brought you on is because you said every song on The Astonishing. But outside,
there's more than 10, right?
It was like 40.
I went over that. Sorry.
So
songs are on there.
minus The Astonishing, do you have a least favorite Dream Theater song?
Oh, golly. On the spot, that's super hard to just throw out something.
Is there anything you skip every time it comes up when you're doing kind of like a random playlist?
Space Dive-Fest.
Only, and it's not that I hate the song, it's just because it's worn is Pull Me Under.
Wow. Okay, there's another one.
I mean, I like the song, but I've heard it literally. I don't see how they still even play that on the set list.
Yeah. All right. Timeout. I wasn't on the episode last week, so I get the floor. Here's the thing. I don't think to this day, I don't think you can just put on parts of Images and Words. You got to start from the beginning. You got to play the whole damn thing every time.
Yeah.
That's how I am.
Okay.
And even though, it's overplayed, whatever, that's, most people are like, I don't need to hear it again. You got to hear that intro, man. You got to hear those guitars ringing out, and then you got to get yourself into Another Day. It's like I don't know. I don't know how you can ever ever, you know, if you're putting together just a playlist of stuff, but I just think images and words, you got to go front to back if you're going to listen to it. That's
I was gonna say maybe not 100% skip, like you said, skip the intro because it's an intro, but it's, you know, what is it, 2 minutes of the same. Okay, get into it, kind of fast forward a little bit, get through it, get to Surrounded, you know, and all that.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah, Surrounded. Hell yeah.
That's probably my favorite one on that album.
Awesome.
Wow. Okay. So Gibson Les Paul, he's about to get blocked. He says, "Come on, Steve. Prophets of War. I Walk Beside You. I Walk Beside You is a kick-ass song, man. I have an emotional connection to that one.
I haven't been the right mood for.
I love that. And again, I have an emotional connection to that because me and my best friend, she's not a Dream Theater fan, but like when that song came out, I was like, oh my God, that's like me and my friend Maria. And I sent her the lyrics and she's like, I just cried. Like, it's so sweet. So like, I have a little bit of a connection with that one, but
does anyone know how to mute John? I'm trying to do it.
I don't think we can. I think
at one point I had the power to mute you and you changed it. You changed it. So
exactly. Cause I have the power. I'm like, He-Man, I have the power.
I mean, first you block Loveface XYZ and then you block me.
Okay, what is the one song in? I mean, forgive me for not remembering the exact. Something Warrior.
Barstool Warrior.
Barstool Warrior. Yeah, that would probably be another one of my least favorites.
Okay, mute him now.
Yeah. Oh, you are done.
That's done.
You're done.
That was only for the last one that was commenting. Give me the other ones. I'm like, no, there's another one.
Sorry, but back the hell up. Being a Barstool Warrior is so much of a 6 Degrees thing. How can you be against it?
Well, you got Kale's grandma in there after that comment about.
Steven, you got Gran on your ass now. Yeah. Gibson Les Paul, throw him out. Man,
you can't love 6 Degrees that much and then be so anti-Barstool Warrior. I'm sorry, that doesn't.
Wow,
that doesn't add up in my head.
That's the follow-up of it.
I don't know about
it's not part of 6. Well, it is, but it's not.
Look, Gibson Les Paul. Okay, so he's got to give us a review. He says even the beer is damn good. So Gibson has actually had the Dream Theater beer. All right, give us a review. Like, is it like, I forget if it's like a lager or a stout, whatever. Rock and Roll Podcast. Fight. You know what I want to try? Like, I want to try that Iron Smoke, the John Petrucci bourbon. I tried to buy a bottle and they don't ship it to Ohio. You can't get it in Ohio, but my guitar player Jonah in my cover band actually lives in Michigan and they do sell it there. And by the time we figured that out, it had sold out. But man, Barstool Warrior, Steven, you got to be kidding me with that.
I think it's just a little over the top for me.
Oh, it's so good.
There's just something about it, and I've tried to get going back to it, and listening. Like I said, every time that you guys have talked about it, I'm like, man, what am I missing here? And I'll go back and listen to it about 3 or 4 times.
Everything, clearly.
And I'm just like, man, I did. There's just something about it that this doesn't really, work with me. And I'd like that. So,
okay, so Gibson Les Paul says it's the Barstool Warrior Dream Theater beer is a Pilsner with a slightly hoppy flavor. It goes down easy. Well, that's good. It's a Pilsner because. Nice.
Under a glass blue moon.
Oh God, here we go.
Under an ass moon.
Yes, exactly. There it is.
I've tried the Iron Maiden beer and the Pantera beer, and the Iron Maiden IPA is horrible. But then again, I'm not an IPA guy.
I'm not either, and I actually have an empty bottle of Trooper on my shelf. If I was
they got a new one called. They got a new one called. I think it's called Hellcat. Iron Maiden Hellcat.
Yeah,
and
that's one of the new ones. One of the thousands of Trooper lined beers.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. Gibson Les Paul. I won a Mangini drum head and stick at a beer tasting before a show here in New Jersey. Man, how come we can't get a beer tasting? We're a beer town in Cleveland. What the hell?
So what? How did?
Cool. Yeah, apparently they had a
beer tasting with Dream Theater stuff. Cool.
Yeah, I'd have done that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have because I don't drink, but I'd rob the guy who won the prizes.
Yeah, dude, Steven, I'm with you. I am not an IPA guy. I'm not much of a beer snob anyway. Like full disclosure, take my man card. I like fruit beers. So, I mean, for crying out loud, I'm drinking watermelon kiwi Truly for God's sakes, but
Hey,
again,
they go down easy, right?
yeah. And I needed a chaser for those gorilla farts I was drinking. So there you go.
I was
Like
drinking Coke and whiskey, but I left it in the other room. And I was like, man, my mouth is so fucking dry right now. I need to like run out there and grab it.
So go grab your drink, man.
All
We got
right,
time.
I'll be back.
Go grab your drink.
Cheers.
Hey,
Arnold.
I mean, I can't talk. I'm the guy. If a 6-pack is anything over like $3 or $4, I'm out of there. It's like,
Yeah, you have singular drinking tastes for sure.
so I swear to God, I have to tell this quick story
Okay.
because people ask, where do I get this stuff from? So I hadn't seen my dad since like last August, just because I hadn't been back at home. And whenever my dad's 82.
I'm grabbing a beverage too, Brian. So I'm going to drop myself out. So you are soloing with Kale.
Okay. So one of my dad's gyms was like, he's sitting there and he's like looking, he's like, don't stop drinking. That was his first word of advice. Don't stop. And it was followed by, you don't have to drink a lot, but don't stop drinking. So he demonstrates to me how he fills a cup of, basically looks like a coffee mug. He fills it 3/4 full with basically half of a 16-ounce beer. And he tops the last third of it off with boxed wine. So he's mixing wine and beer. I can't make this up.
I don't think that it tastes.
No, I don't think it tastes good either. So basically his routine is he has it at he's like, I have one glass of this at 1 p.m. and then I have another glass at 8 o'clock at night before I go to bed. This is his routine, is to drink a 16-ounce beer topped off with boxed wine. I mean, that is that is a dedicated system of I don't even know what. Like it's just like
a dedicated system of absolute insanity is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I mix some pretty horrible concoctions, and I'll send John like pictures of what it is. But like this is a whole new level of. And so I told some people, they're like, "Oh, well, that's where you get it from." I'm like, "No, even the stuff that I mix together is not. It's not that beyond awful." But...
No.
All right, so Steven's back. I'm back. Steven, do you have your beverage?
Slancha.
Oh, the Aggies, huh? Texas A&M.
Exactly.
Johnny Manziel, one of the most successful quarterbacks in Cleveland Brown history.
You got to say that. He's the big money man.
All right, so you're being called out. Nick Brayman says, Barstool Warrior is over the top. What exactly is over the top? You just don't like how it's somehow thematic or how the song builds? Like,
the guitar and the drums, in my opinion, of course, which isn't worth shit. They're just, everything is just building and building and building. It just keeps growing and growing, and it's like it doesn't ever go down. It just, to me, it's just constantly going uphill. And I need a little balance. Like I said, it's just my opinion.
No kidding. See, I like how it just builds and builds. Like, I like that. That's one of the reasons I'm a fan of that song, because the build is really, I think
it's missing
Nick
that hook for me, I guess, is what it is. To bring it back down and then to kind of equalize it and then, come back up.
We do get that though, don't we?
It's pretty progressive. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I thought we had that.
Well, okay, so Nick says, gotcha. That's cool. So, all right.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
There you go.
I can understand, yeah, but.
And now here's a question, though. I mean, okay, so Gibson Les Paul wants to know, or is it one of John's best solos? I would think so.
Man,
that could be.
That's so subjective. That's so hard to say.
Yeah.
I don't rate the solo that way.
Difficult.
I do. I think the guitar work in that song is phenomenal.
Guitar work as a whole, yeah, but
yeah,
in the actual terms of his actual solo, there it's like.
See, this is one of the areas I would disagree with you with on Steven. Like, I think that song is full of hooks. I think it's one giant hook. So to me, it's just so catchy, and I absolutely love that record, Distance Over Time. And to me, the standout track is Barstool Warrior. So, so I mean,
And it's
me,
funny,
and he- me, we
I
are just on
listened
opposite
to it
ends, man.
over again. Heck, it was 2 weeks ago, and I can't remember. It just popped up on my list, and I was like, okay, I don't want to hear this one song. I'm going to, hear the complete album. So listen to the whole album, and I'm listening to Barstool, and all right, got to fast forward it. And maybe I'm just it's already been embedded in my mind. Okay, I don't like it. Maybe I need to give it more of a chance and listen to it all the way through a few more times.
Stand
And
your
it may
ground.
grab me. So
Don't give in to John's bullying.
Is it because it's that one? It's that first one that's really melodic after those first 3 singles, maybe because it's like the first.
no, I don't mind the melodic portion of
Shield
it.
bit?
I like a lot of the melodic stuff. It's just I don't know. What it is about it.
I'm not saying that you don't like the melodic. I'm saying like in terms of its placement within it. Like if it's somewhere else on the record, would you like it more? Because I've had
could
that.
be. It may just be how it's followed up. Where it is. That could be true. I don't know.
See, now you got to make a playlist of the record and just change the sequencing and see if you like it better if it's like 7th or 8th on the album. Put Viper King at number 3 and you're like, all right. And then the bonus track becomes Barstool Warrior and you're like, yeah.
Well, see, that's what I was making the point of the other day. Is like I think Viper King would be. I think it's probably better to make Room 137 the bonus track. To be honest,
that is a wonky song. Like that is the wonky song on that record. I mean, we did our deep dive and that is definitely an interesting song. I like it though. I mean, and that's one of the reasons. Like I prefer Distance Over Time to View from the Top of the World because the songs on Distance Over Time, they stand out much more on an individual basis than I think the songs on View from the Top of the World do. Like A View from the Top of the World, like I've listened to it a ton of times now, and I still can't get over the fact it sounds like one giant piece of music that just chopped into pieces.
Yeah.
And Distance Over Time, like the songs just stand on their own. So
I can't argue that. I actually put on the title track about 4 times today because I was kind of curious to double down on, well, not double down, but sort of rediscover it again. I love the title track, but I also agree. I think it's the Distance Over Time is very song oriented, almost in the way like Rush Moving Pictures is a great front to back album. It's very song oriented as well, and I feel like. Yeah, I can't argue that.
So what do y'all's take on? And I know this, from past episodes. Train of Thought.
Great album.
Brian was not that big a fan. Obviously, we had our buddy Tommy Allen on. That was his favorite record. That's why we had him on. And I think he had a lot of good opinions on it. It was some stuff I didn't even think about when he was talking. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even think.
I have a newer appreciation for it, but I will go back to what John said. It's I don't think it's song oriented at all. I think it's similar to View from the Top of the World.
It's very stark. It's the songs do stand out to me in my mind, but I think the presentation of it all. You could kind of say the same thing that I said about A View from the Top of the World, and that it's like one chunk of music chopped into pieces. I just think that those pieces on Train of Thought are more distinctive.
Here's a topic. I hate the album cover. I think it's awful. And I think like right away when I saw the album cover, I'm like, I don't know. I was, you know what I mean? Like,
didn't know what to really expect.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it looked terrible. And it's
different from all the rest of theirs.
Well, but I think it fits the music though, doesn't it? I mean, it's bleak, it's stark, it's dark, like,
and you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I mean, picture the music on Train of Thought with the album, but the album cover is Octavarium. It just doesn't fit.
Yeah, but
the bright
gotta be
colors
honest. I gotta be honest. I way prefer the artwork that's on Portnoy's drum heads on the Budokan video, where it's that train with the Majesty symbol on it. I love that idea.
Yeah, something about the eye and stuff. I don't know. I think it's a hokey. It doesn't really like. I would be fine if it was just a really dark, heavy, kind of brooding looking cover, but I think it's almost more confusing and hokey. The cover itself to me.
That
What, you
almost
don't like
more
an eyeball in a
vacant
tunnel?
than the rest of it.
Yeah, an eyeball in a tunnel. Yay!
So we've got a fight in the chat. Gibson Les Paul says, "Ugh, Train of Thought, not a fan." And then Nick Brayman says, "Train of Thought is one of their best.
Whoa!
Such a cool, unique
ding,
album
ding.
cover."
Hang on.
Did we save our rankings? Where did you put it, John? I can't remember.
We have not ranked the albums yet. That is
that's right. I'm sorry.
that is an upcoming episode.
We ranked the. Sorry, I forgot what we ranked. Yeah, never
No,
mind.
it's all good. Yeah, we're finally, like I said, we've been doing this for a year. We're starting to forget what we've done.
I don't know what I
So-
did yesterday.
Yeah, and then there's me asking Steven the same question twice. You know, those damn gorilla farts.
Hey,
So-
who's in charge of the whiteboard here, right?
Keep calling the album "Talking into Infinity."
Yeah.
Yeah, you do that. You haven't
Yeah.
done that today yet, though. But
Yep,
that album hasn't come up today.
I have been good about that. I think it's in my head now that anytime I'm thinking about my favorite record, I'm going falling into infinity, falling into infinity, falling into infinity. Like,
And you should also think that if you say it wrong, I'm going to come up in the comments.
All right, so
Because I always call you out on that.
a quick hypothetical Christmas question here, and you can't take more than like 2 seconds to think about it. Dream Theater shows up at your house Christmas morning. They can play one song. What is it?
6 degrees of inner turbulence.
oh, I knew it.
Steven?
6 o'clock.
Oh,
Wow.
that's a good call. Wow. Okay.
Fair.
All right. What about you, Brian?
I'm gonna save you from Top of the World. I'm in the zone on that right now.
Okay. Gibson Les Paul says "Lifting Shadows Off a Dream." That
Not
is a
bad.
great. That is a great selection. Man, this is actually a difficult one for me because pretty much anything I've
Won't
wanted to
think
see.
too hard.
Well, then I'm going to go with my favorite song, "Trial of Tears."
Yeah, you can't go wrong there.
Love that song.
No.
That's a no-brainer. For you.
Well, it's got that big intro, so there's like a lot of room for jamming in it,
Yeah.
and then it's just so that song is like ethereal and beautiful. I love that song. I love it.
To be fair, I'm only taking 6 degrees of inner turbulence to keep them there as long as possible. So
Yeah.
They'll
right,
be
so
there
if you-
for an hour or so.
Exactly. All right, so you can't take 6 degrees.
Ah,
So what are you taking? If we
he also
ban,
said I can't take more than 2 seconds. So
well, but you were doing that out of spite, though. There you go.
I was taking the Adam Rishorg approach to this.
Yeah, Adam did kind of piss Brian off with that one. So, all right, no 6 degrees. What are you going with?
Ah, Christ. Shit. Now you put me on the spot. Learning to live, maybe.
Oh, that's a good choice too. That is a good choice. Too.
All right,
That one always gets me in a good mood.
Same question, but Cannibal Corpse is the band. Quick.
Hammer Smash
Don't know.
Face.
Don't know
Yeah.
a single one of theirs.
I'd say it's stripped, raped, and strangled for sure.
Sorry, we don't want any.
And then the song too.
Oh my god. Yeah, Cannibal Corpse. I actually had to sit through that band one time. It was Brian, you probably
Who were
remember
they
this.
open for?
Oh, dude, it was we used to have this show called the World Series of Metal that happened here in Cleveland. It was a 3-day festival, and actually my band used it as like on our flyers because it was a Saturday Sunday thing. And so I just said 3 days, 2-day, but it was a Saturday Sunday thing, and my band opened the festival at like 11 o'clock on Saturday, and Megadeth was the headliner on Sunday night. And so on our flyers, we would put like, played with Megadeth and all these other. So we kind of like cheesed out on that one, but
It was in the same building as Dave Mustaine.
yeah. Exactly. We saw Dave Mustaine coming off his tour bus. But yeah, the one year I went, Anthrax was the headliner, and the band billed just below them was Cannibal Corpse, and I'm a huge Anthrax fan. They're probably my third favorite band behind Van Halen and Dream Theater.
This Bush era.
Was that with Benelli
Madonna
or
era?
post Benelli?
Uh,
I didn't
What-
like that new guy. Benelli
You
was
don't-
badass.
like you're talking about like so you're talking about Joey Belladonna and
Yeah,
John
yeah.
Bush. I actually have the same exact opinion of Anthrax as I do Van Halen. I love it all, but I do have the slightest preference for Joey. I just like the songs better, and it's not like my Van Halen opinion, which is, you know, Dave was a dick. Like I met the Anthrax guys on the Volume 8 tour, and they were cool as hell. And John Bush especially was absolutely cool as hell. They're fucking kick ass live. And Joey Belladonna is one of those singers we were talking about, vocalists that can't bring it anymore. Joey sounds today like he did in like 1987. It's incredible.
They're still in A tuning a lot of the time, aren't they?
Where
so many of the bands have gone down A flat, D.
I think they go down a half step. If I remember, I think that it might.
I think the new stuff they do. I don't know if they do.
Well, they were probably always down a half step to get that junk anyway. I'm not 100% positive on that.
But real quick to finish the story, and then we'll get on to Anthrax. That's a good topic here. I had to sit through Cannibal Corpse to get to Anthrax, and it sucked. And I remember I was in the crowd, I was by myself, and I started screaming between songs, "Play Bloody Chunks," like just to be an ass. And these two guys were sitting in front of me. The one guy turns around and is like, "Yeah, man, that's a great song." And the other guy kept giving me these horribly dirty looks because he knew what I was doing. He knew what I was doing. And I'll never forget, and then we'll get to Anthrax, but I think Corpse Grinder was in the band at this point because this was on the
Corpse Grinder.
Yeah, well, it's his name, but yeah,
okay.
Anthrax was touring Stomp 442, which is one of the most criminally underrated records in the history of music. Whole other topic. And Corpse Grinder's like, he's like, "This one goes out to all the ladies out there. This is fucked with a knife." I'm like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, all right. But so so there's my story. I just sit through Cannibal Corpse. But yeah, Anthrax. Where do you guys stand on Anthrax? Rock and Roll Podcast says nice, love Anthrax. Gibson Les Paul says best Anthrax album among the living.
There's a limb that went out on there. Most people don't really like that one.
Well, it's like people's
badass song.
Yeah. See, you know what though? It's funny you say that because like we're talking about songs that are overplayed. For me, Indians is one of those. Okay, I could take it or leave it. Like I've heard it too. That one and I Am the Law.
Yeah,
like
I love what's that other one? NFM or NFL?
NFL, yeah. Evil Nick Fuss. Yeah. You know, Rock and Rose with me and you, Brian. Stomp 442 is amazing. Yes, that record is so goddamn good, and no one ever talks about it.
Yeah,
but
I'm probably one of the most minorities here for an Anthrax fan, but Worship Music and For All Kings are my favorite albums from Anthrax.
You can't go wrong with that, man. The two newest records are. Oh man,
I think they're at a new peak with those. They're writing more serious lyrics than they were back in the day.
Right.
The riffs are heavy as hell.
Well, I mean, Worship Music, the comeback record with Joey starts with Earth on Hell. You know, and it does that. You know that church music, and all of a sudden you get like the blast beat, like
wild in the streets.
Exactly. Oh my God, it's so good. So Stephen, where do you stand?
Oh, sorry,
Brian. Sorry.
I haven't heard much of the new stuff. Probably it was about a month ago. I seen a newer video, you know, of an Anthrax song. Never heard it before, but I was jamming. I mean, I love music.
You have to check it out. Like, I mean, the Kale is dead on. The quality of these two new records that they've put out is on par with the classic stuff. It really is. I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic, and it's got great production. I mean, there's that, you know, they've got that song "In the End," which is like a tribute to Dio and Dimebag.
Right.
God, I am trying to think what the hell, Kale. Like, you can look this up real quick. What is the fourth track on Worship Music? Because it's the one that's like, and it's one of those Anthrax grind riffs that they do better than anybody.
Fourth track including Worship, or
whatever the fourth track.
I'm Alive, the one that starts with the clay riff and then
the absolutely fantastic. Yeah, Steven, you got to check that out.
What I always liked about theirs was they had that kind of roll going, you know, on the drums and bass and everything like that.
Well, and Scotty
mosh music.
Yes, exactly. And Scott, I literally just bought their new live DVD the other day off Amazon because I collect like I try and get everything digital, but in terms of like my favorite bands, I want physical product, especially if they put out like a live DVD. I want every live DVD. So I just bought,
Kings
what the
Among
hell's it?
Scotland.
Yes, I'm looking at it as we speak. Kings Among Scotland. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I just bought the.
Not my
You
favorite.
really? What don't you like about it?
I don't think they performed Among the Living at their peak. The first set is awesome. The full Among the Living's not the best.
Okay.
I
right.
think they performed those songs better on Chili on Hell from 13 than they do on this one.
Okay. All right. Brian, where do you stand with Anthrax?
I love worship music. I don't know, the For All Kings. I tried to get into it. I just don't think it's as good. I think it's kind of like, it almost sounds like B-sides that didn't make worship music but it's so hard to
Really?
like. But that was such a ridiculous comeback. Like that could have like went wrong in so many ways. Like that could have just sounded so bad, but man, they just destroyed that. And I love
one of the flagship songs is written for the singer before you. Sure.
I love We Come For Your All, like taking the music back, like when Roger Daltrey's on the course of that. Like I love that freaking song. I mean, that just when that riff kicks in and their Cadillac Rock Box. I mean, We've Come For Your All is just amazing too.
Well, anything with Dimebag, can we agree that like basically Dimebag is like musical perfection?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That's a given.
I mean, does anybody here of the four of us, does anybody not like Pantera?
At all, or just like we can
see,
within certain limitations?
I wasn't a huge fan of the final, what turned out to be the final album.
I'm not a fan of Trendkill or
I love Trendkill.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
Kale just got booted.
So long, Kale.
Let me ask you this.
Hey, have a good
Gibson Les Paul just got banned as well. He says not a Pantera fan. So there we go.
Well, you're in Dimebag territory there, right?
Exactly.
I mean, he's worshipped in Dallas area.
From Dallas Fort Worth.
Wait! Did you see Pantera back in the day?
Yes.
Oh,
many times. They were the house band at Dallas City Limits in Dallas.
This dude is getting so promoted right now.
I know.
I'm talking. Oh shit! You can't even imagine what they used to look like and the type of music they used to play back in the day.
It was the hair metal shit. So you saw them before they were signed.
Yes. Oh yeah. Many
Just
times.
taking a photo of the moment you became the new co-host.
Bye, Kale. You had a good run, man. You lasted almost a year.
All right,
Yeah.
so give us.
I think it's you and me are going to need to start a new podcast here.
That's true.
All right, Steven. So you got to give us some awesome. Like, tell us about Pantera. Like, you were there from the beginning, and it was in your backyard.
Literally in my backyard. I grew up in Irving, Texas, and
Did you meet them back then?
I met them a couple times, and this was obviously back then. And
did you drink with them?
Yes, they
nice
nickel beer nights, Thursday nights, nickel beer. And I'd go up there with a roll of nickels and just get effing wasted. I don't condone that at all. There was no Ubers back then, but it is what it is, and I'm still alive. But yeah, I mean, it was a total hairman metal back then, and they play covers and other, stuff, also. But yeah, these guys jumping around in long hair, spandex, spiked out, looking like Cinderella and Poison before Cinderella and Poison.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy music, crazy times. And like I said, it was at a club. And this is where I seen Dream Theater. That's when they played Images and Words in a freaking parking lot outside of Dallas City Limits. And I mean, it was just the place to go. Great White would go there. I've seen Great White a million times. And they were there probably at least once a month. For whatever reason at that particular club. A lot of bands, if they weren't going to Reunion Arena back in the day before it was tore down, they'd stop there at the little bitty club and just jam.
Man,
I mean, it was awesome.
So did you see Pantera before Phil? Did you even see him with Terry Glaze?
Yes.
No shit.
All
right, so
I couldn't have told you his name, but I knew it was before Phil. Yes.
Okay, so. I mean, the stories are legendary. That everybody who saw Dimebag play guitar knew, like, that's a superstar. And did you have that too?
Oh yeah, I mean the style. It was you knew back then it was Pantera because of Dimebag, the way that his style was, and his style it progressed obviously to what it is to the day that he died. But it's it's like you hear those riffs and those chords, and you're like, dude, that's fucking Dime. And no matter what it was, hair metal band, thrash metal, whatever you wanted to call Pantera, hell, I call it Texas metal. It's just what
Yep.
what it is. And yeah, Dimebag was a badass then, and like you said, like these dudes are going somewhere. And then 2-3 years later, boom, they hit the big stage. And what was it? Was it Cowboys from Hell? What was their first big album?
The first one was
Cowboys from
Cowboys,
Hell.
and the second one that was huge was Vulgar.
Vulgar
Display.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the one that just blew up, and then a lot of people jumped on the Cowboys from that because they hadn't really heard it yet. But yeah, I mean, they had them. There was another band. I don't know if you guys ever watched Doogie Howser. You remember that television show?
Yeah.
What, with Kid Neil Patrick Harris? That one?
Yeah.
Yep.
So there was a band out of Dallas called Rigor Mortis. And
yeah.
Rigor Mortis was they're painting, on Doogie Howser, and they got a Rigor Mortis patch, on the back of his little, whiteboard or whatever when they're going through.
Really?
And I'm looking at like, dude, these guys are playing at the lake for fucking $5 a head, and got 4 kegs out there at the lake in the middle of the night, and that was another thrash metal band. Made it a little bit big. I think one of the guitarists ended up going with Gwar, a dude named Mike Scotia.
Okay, yeah.
And, just, I mean, not that everything, comes out of Texas is badass, but everything that comes out of Texas is badass.
So, all right, so you hung out with Dimebag, and I actually have a Pantera story of my own. But our buddy Aiken, we mentioned a few times tonight, he runs the CMS network and everything. He actually was he was friends with Pantera. That's a whole long story I won't get into, but literally like to the point where Phil Anselmo a few years ago, he went to see him at our House of Blues here, and Phil Anselmo recorded a personal video for my stepson, who loves all kinds of music, but he absolutely loves Pantera. And Philip Anselmo recorded it as like, Dominic Rigdon, I know who you are. Like, so it was great. He's like, I hear that you're into some heavy ass metal. You got some good parents, little brother. So keep flying the flag. Keep it metal. This is the kid. Phil, like, it was cool. So like, he was friend.
Pantera.
Yeah, well, and see, here's the thing. Like, people say that, but like, to me, Pantera's like Van Halen. Like, Van Halen to me was Eddie, and Pantera to me was Dime. And like I said, I've got my own stories about him. But like, you met him, like, and you hung out with him and drank with him. Talk about how
we weren't buddies or
unbelievably
nothing like that. Don't get me wrong, we weren't hanging
Oh
out
no, I know
weekend,
that.
But yeah,
but that's exactly where I was going to go with this. Is that he was the coolest fucking guy you will ever meet.
Oh yeah,
and like I mean, so talk about just hanging, even just like cracking a beer with him here and there. Like what was your impression of Dimebag?
Other than, I mean, like I said, just being in awe of him as a musician. I've always, I dabbled with guitars. I'm not a guitarist. I can play a little bit, and I was like, damn, dude, that dude is badass, and I mean, same thing for, his brother. I mean, the drummer, when you hear them, you hear any of them, I don't care what music, country music, you hear him with the drums, or you hear him with his riffs, you know exactly who it is, yep. And that's when you kind of made it big, was when all I got to hear is, 2 notes out of what you're playing, whether it's drums, singing, or anything, that's when you made it. And those guys made it way back then.
That it is so, like you said, it's they have that signature sound, and it's I mean, it's like I say, it's widely reported.
Even
everyone
with
says
Hell Yeah and everything like that, it was kind of the same thing. Before I knew who Hell Yeah was, I heard them like, that's fucking Pantera. That's not.
It's Vinnie Paul. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I met the Pantera guys one time, and I actually got fired from my job because of it. So up here in Cleveland, it's kind of like, yeah. So I had a day job, but my night job, I was single, so I was delivering pizza 3 nights a week, for my pocket money. And when they put out the 101 Proof live record, my buddy Aiken, he was doing a show called The Metal Show. It's like the top-rated radio show here in Cleveland on Sunday nights, actually all week. And they set up an in-store with Pantera at a place up here called The Exchange. It's like a used CD and tape store. It's a great place. It's like a chain here in Cleveland. And they got Pantera to come in for for this in store for the release of the live record. And here's something like breaking news. When Pantera puts out the Pantera home video part 4, which is in the works, and we'll see when it comes out, but I have that on good authority 2 years ago or 3 years ago from Rita Haney herself. There's footage of this insanity at the Parma Record Exchange that is going to be on the Pantera home video, because Aiken had to sign releases for it and stuff like that. But anyway,
Cool.
So I'm delivering pizza. I'll never forget. It was a Wednesday night, and I'm delivering pizza in the same city that the in-store was happening, and I get a call from Aiken. He's like, "Hey, the Pantera guys are hungry. Can you bring us pizza?" And I went, "Yeah."
Hell
so
yeah.
I ran in the back and I made up, I think it was like four pepperoni pizzas or something, and I grabbed them on my way out the door to go make a delivery, and I show up, and there's literally I think it was like 2,000 or 3,000 people waiting for the band, and like the guys were late because Phil was in, he's kind of in his, he was messed up at the time. And so the band was late, and the crowd was just going bonkers. And they had a PA out there, so Aiken was trying to calm the crowd down, do this, that, and the other. And finally the band shows up, and about 5-10 minutes later, I show up with the pizza. And, there's like literally 2,000-3,000 people in line, and he's like, "Do you want to meet Pantera?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was the third person. He just opened the door and let me in. I'm looking over my webcam right now, and nailed to the wall is the copy of the magazine that sign it says, it's all the guys, and Daryl's the only one to sign it. He said, "Daryl says hi," spelled High. So I met him, and there were 2 tables. The first one was Vinnie, Paul, and Dime, and the second was Rex and then Phil. And
Hey, John,
Rex and
could you remove me for a couple of seconds? I need to do a thing real quick.
Yeah, I can do that, man. So, I go, and Phil and Rex were kind of whatever. But the first one I met was Vinnie Paul. Excuse me. And he was just awesome. He was like, "Hey, man, thanks for coming out and everything." And I told him, I was like, "Man, you guys are such a huge influence on my band." So the other. And then Dime was the next one. I told him, I was like, "Dude, Dime, my 2 guitar players, like, absolutely, like, worship you. They idolize you. Like, we like to, you guys are just, man, your guitar playing is like everything to us as a band." Like, and he literally stands up and he's like, "Brother," and he gives me this giant hug. He's like, "Dude, that means so much to me, brother. Thank you so much." Like, he was, and it was like one of those people, you ever meet somebody like, just even though you only met him for a few seconds, like you get that vibe that they're like a really good dude.
Yeah, they're good people, exactly.
Yeah. And that was Dimebag. And so I met the band, I got the signatures, and my next shift was Saturday morning that week. And I go into work and I look at the calendar to see what I was working the following week, and my name had been erased off of the list of employees. And I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, I'm like, "Am I not working next week?" And the manager on duty goes, "No, you're fired." And I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Yeah, you got fired for stealing pizza."
For taking the pizzas to the dude.
Yep. So
what a
there was like an assistant manager that was trying to move up to like store manager, and she was like stepping on people to like, 'cause she thought that's how you're gonna get ahead. And when I did that, she tattled on me to the owner. And I was like, "All right," and I really didn't care, because I was like, "You know what, dude? I got fired delivering pizza to Pantera. That is the greatest story ever." So,
exactly. I got a story. Yeah, it's gonna last years. Exactly.
Yeah.
The job wasn't taking me anywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, that's been told all over the place up here between me and my buddies, and on the classic metal show and stuff like. But yeah, Pantera, like Dimebag was one of those guys that just, I mean, I actually was thinking about this literally yesterday, because I was listening to Pantera's cover of "Hole in the Sky," the Black Sabbath tune, and I'm like, you know what, man? Like, I'm living in a world where Dimebag and Eddie Van Halen are gone, but at least I got to see them. It's like, it's so bittersweet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
you think about. I was talking to my wife about exactly that today, and she was like, "Yeah, I wish I could go see AC/DC." I was like, "It's never going to happen." I've seen AC/DC many times, and I look back and I was like, "Dang, you'll never see AC/DC again. You'll never see Dio again." Dio was probably one of the best concerts I've ever been to, as far as the show that's put on. I mean, that's what it was. It was a show. It wasn't just music. It was a freaking show that was just amazing, and you'll never see, that again. You'll never see, Pantera again, or anybody like that. It's like, damn, I'm lucky I got to see those people.
And they're so good. It's like I was saying, my stepson loves everything. Like his two favorite bands are the Beatles and Slipknot. So let that tell you what he's into.
Yeah.
So I mean, he literally listens to everything, and I tell him constantly, you know, welcome back, Kale. I
Hey,
tell him
sorry.
I tell him constantly, like, if there was one band that I could have you see live that we don't have the possibility to go see again, it would without a doubt be Pantera. That band was so absolutely destructive live. I mean, for example, my buddy Aiken, he was friends with them. He was backstage with them. I think it was the show when Anthrax was opening, and it was on the Volume 8 tour, and the Anthrax played like crap because they were so ungodly drunk. And my buddy Aiken was back there, like, getting as ripped as possible with Pantera and Anthrax. He told me, he's like, dude, I lived it once drinking with Pantera, and all those stories, that shit is no joke. He was like, those guys were just like, he's like, I don't know how they even played a single note, much less got up there and were stomping around and razor sharp tight. Like, it was incredible.
Right.
It was incredible. Brian, did you ever get to see Pantera back in the day?
Yeah, I did actually. I saw him at the Jar. Have you ever been to a concert there?
I saw Pantera there twice.
Okay, did you see the one then with Sebastian Bach opening?
With that 7-foot tall guitar player of his with the green frog wings
in a dress or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, that was awful. That was the one with Anthrax. That was the one with Anthrax.
Yeah, but did you happen to go afterwards to Sadie Renee's? So
I did not. Did you go there? Did you see that?
I went and
tell this story. This is a great story.
So I went and they had a this is like kind of before really tribute bands were everywhere. I think they were called Cowboys from Hell. They were a Pantera tribute band, and they were set to play there after the show basically started, in hopes of like getting people probably to come over there or whatever. And it's not it wasn't
real quick, keep your spot. I just want to let people know, like, for people who aren't familiar with our area. So the Jar Arena that Brian's talking about is in a city called Akron, and Canton is the next city over. It's like 10, 15 minutes away. So that's how close it was. That's why they're doing this. So continue. Sorry.
So it wasn't very far. And, they played about a set and a half or so, I think. And I remember Rex Brown showed up. Phil did not play, or he wasn't there. Vinnie Paul may have been there, but I just remember Rex Brown got up and he played at least 2, if not 3 songs. And the whole place just like exploded. I mean, everyone who was basically at that show that knew about this tribute band being there was there. So it was packed. I mean, I've actually played Sadie Renee's myself probably 15, 20 times in the cover bands I was in. I never, we would play to, if we were lucky, you might have 100 people in there. But I mean, this place was packed to the rafters with people, especially when they found out. And the bus was outside. And so I'm sure they were all in there on the bus, but the only one from what I can remember, and again, I had done a lot of imbibing for that show. The only one I can remember for sure was I know Rex Brown came in and played at least 2 or 3 songs.
I can tell you that you do forget things because Dime got on stage. I know that for a fact.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, those guys literally got all tore up at their show and then went to this bar they heard there was a Pantera tribute band. Okay. And so they showed up and, like you said, Rex got up and then Dime got up too. Okay. And they were actually playing with the tribute band.
I knew for sure that Phil was not there. That part I knew, but I couldn't. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was that show. It's like, well, and then to paint the picture, so the James Akron, what is it? The James something Rhodes Arena?
James A. Rhodes Arena, the Jar. Yeah. Yep.
So basically, if you're in the bleachers, it's like the movie Hoosiers. It's like basketball bleachers. That's what you're sitting in.
That's exactly where I was sitting.
Yeah. You were probably.
I was facing the stage. I was like center stage.
I've never seen a concert where I sat in like basketball bleachers like that. I mean, the sound really, it's a basketball. It's not a great place for sound, but I mean, they were amazing there. Yeah, and I totally forgot that Anthrax had did they go on first and then was Sebastian, or was it second?
Sebastian and then Anthrax.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, it's funny, like this is, again, take my man card. This has happened a few times tonight. My girlfriend at the time, her favorite band was Pantera. And so I was with her and my older brother.
Okay.
And I had bought, you could get floor tickets or bleacher tickets. And I bought bleacher tickets for my brother and I bought her floor tickets because she actually, and she you would never know it from looking at her. She just looked like a normal, beautiful girl, whatever. But she loved Pantera, and she'd like to mosh. So I bought her a floor ticket, and she got all the way up front, and she was kicking ass with dudes to the point when we got back in the car, she's like, Big Val grabbed me and shoved dudes off me because they were trying to prove that they were metal, because they're like, oh, this chick thinks she's metal, we're gonna beat her up, and so she was kicking ass, and Val, their super famous security guy, saw this and was backing dudes off of her. Like, so she was basically hooked up with Big Val down on the floor, right up against the security barrier. And my lame ass was up in the bleachers with my older brother, just banging away on air guitar and stuff. Like, so yeah, that was, man, Steven, I can't believe that you saw them that early, man. That is so fucking cool.
Yeah. And I've got a tape somewhere of their early stuff. And I mean, I'm sure it's up in my attic and obviously probably warped as crap and wouldn't even play, but I know I've got it up there somewhere.
So you own one of the actual original Pantera demos / albums.
Yes.
No.
All right, you got to go find that and then come on a show in the future. We'll just do a special one-off Pantera episode so you can show that off.
I will. I'll look for it while it's cool, and because typically in Texas, in the attic, it's about 180 degrees up there, but right now it's probably only about 70. So, after Christmas, I'll when I'm putting the Christmas crap back up in the attic, I'll try to bring down my tapes and CD boxes that are up there and see if I can find it.
Can I propose an episode name for that one?
Yes.
Reinventing into infinity instead of reinventing the steel.
Nice.
There's tonight's show, which is basically pulled from the Pantera home videos. Vulgar display of fucking liquor. After I did those gorilla farts.
The great debate of the Southern Trendkill.
So have you guys seen the like we'll get off Pantera in a bit, but have you guys seen the Pantera home videos? Are you guys fans of those? Because my brother and I can quote them chapter and verse.
Oh, I've watched them a few times. They're hilarious.
I've only seen a couple myself.
Right. All right, so let's go around
I
the horn.
just came up with the worst thing I could possibly have come up with.
Okay, what is it?
Cowboys from Ravens Kill.
Yes, love it.
Yeah, that's not good at all.
Wait, Cowboys from Hell's Kitchen?
Cowboys from
that's
Hell's
even
Kitchen
better.
would have made so much more of it.
That's even better. All right, so
Next
right.
episode.
So I've told a bunch of my stories on the show previously. I told a bunch tonight. I want to know what your guys' coolest rock story is. Like, I got fired by Pantera. I was at Score. I could have played drums with Mike Portnoy, yada yada. So Brian, I'm gonna start with you, and then we're gonna go to Kale and Steven. So what is your coolest story, like rock and roll story that you have?
Well, I told mine the night that you lost power. I told mine, so I don't even know if you heard it. I was actually playing on a stage in Milwaukee during what they call Summerfest. Our cover band was playing. I had a wireless microphone, and Kansas was playing at the same time, like way across from us.
Right.
And apparently my vocals were coming through there through Steve Walsh's wireless system.
I did not hear that.
So, I mean, I'm an okay singer. I'm not exactly Steve Walsh, so no one is. But so this giant, 900-pound guy is pointing at me, and it's he's going like this, and I'm like, what does this mean? You're gonna decapitate me or something,
Yes, that is what that means.
Yeah, and it was I just got a battery low. So then he's yelling at me, and he's yelling at the guy running our sound, saying, you got to turn that off, or you got to find another frequency or whatever. And so next thing I know, they just switched to a regular mic. But I can't imagine the sheer horror of Carry On My Wayward Son or something, and then I'm attempting to sing Man in the Box or whatever we were doing at that time. So,
oh my Lord.
That's probably the most ridiculous thing that actually has to do with a rock band and a celebrity that I can think of.
All right, Kale. What's your biggest rock and roll story that you have? Either
God, there's been a lot of cool stories. I mean, I've met the Alter Bridge guys. I've met Dream Theater guys. I've met Haken, all of them. Actually, Haken was a cool one. Standing on the street in front of the venue, because I've got a guitar lesson and a drum lesson with Charlie and Ray from Haken. And there comes Ross Jennings in the car, and he just looks at me and he's just like, Just gives me the absolute tongue and both metal ones just going out. It's just like, yeah. It's just like, that just happened.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
it was good
all right. All right, Steven. What is yours?
I'd say my best one was a buddy of mine. His father went to school with Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top.
Oh, I
So-
forgot to ask you about ZZ Top. Yeah, you're in Texas.
So every year ZZ Top would come down, and play at Reunion Arena. We'd get free tickets. Me and my buddy. Well, my buddy would get free tickets, and he'd always take me. And
Sure.
we get backstage passes. So for golly, from 82 to probably 92, 94, we got to see them and, had backstage passes, got to meet the band and everything like that, hang out and really enjoy what backstage was all about. So that was pretty cool. That was real cool.
So I'll close with one more story that it's funny you mentioned ZZ Top. I got to bring this up because, like I say, like my cousin, lived in Dallas, for several years, and he ran a business and stuff like that. So he'd fly back and forth from Cleveland to Dallas and everything. And he hits me up one night. He's like, hey, cuz. I'm like, what's up, man? He's like, I gotta tell you the story. You're the only person I can tell this to that would appreciate it as much as it needs to be appreciated. So he was my cousin was a great guy, but he was like, he's one of those guys he'd like to live above his means. So like he was like, kind of like the whole KISS thing, like image is everything, like perception is everything. So he would always fly first class, and he tells me that he was on a flight going, I forget if it was from Dallas to Cleveland or vice versa, but he says, so I'm sitting next to this guy and I'm like looking at him and I'm like, this guy's got to be in a band or something. He's got this beard like down to his belly button. And I'm like, as soon as he said this, I was like, I didn't interrupt him. I'm like, don't even tell me. And so he says he was just sitting there bullshitting with this guy for most of the flight. He's like, he's a nice guy. He's like, my cousin says, so what do you do? And he's like, oh, I play guitar. I'm coming from, it was either coming from or going to. He's like, coming from or going to Cleveland. I'm doing a jam session with my buddy Eric. And he's like, oh, yeah. And as the conversation goes on, it turns out the Eric he was talking about was Eric Clapton. And then near the end of the flight, my cousin finds out, like, he's like, yeah, he's like, my cousin literally says, so are you in a band? And he goes, yeah. He says, yeah, I'm in ZZ Top. And then my cousin's
little band
like,
out of Texas.
yeah, exactly. And he's like, and my cousin's like, at that point I went, oh, I guess I should have known from the beard. But it was like, it was so funny because I'm like, cuz like all of us, like, I know you're not a big music fan, but like, everyone knows the Beards. How did you not know this? He's like, dude, I don't know.
And
But
the
yeah,
one named Beard doesn't have one.
yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, he said he literally talked to him for a couple hours, and he was like the nicest freaking guy. And my cousin had absolutely no clue who he was, even though he's sitting there just bullshitting with
Good
Billy
Lord.
Gibbons, for a couple hours.
That's
So
great.
yeah, so
That's just great.
yeah. So all right, Brian, I know you got to get rolling because you are you heading back to St. Louis?
No, I'm actually not going to go there for Christmas since I went earlier. So just doing Christmas
all right.
at the spouses. So
Okay.
yeah, just
Well-
got to go get some food and take care of a couple things. I can't believe Christmas is like a day and a half away here. Hardly.
I know.
Crazy,
Yeah,
man.
time to go shopping.
It's
right?
tomorrow for me.
Yeah, it's tomorrow for Kale.
We're
I-
literally sitting at 11:17 a.m. on Christmas Eve right here in Western Australia.
Yep.
Living the
I
good life, talking to some really cool dudes.
appreciate you, man. Yeah, I actually have to be on the road in less than 8 hours. I'm leaving at 6:15 a.m. to hit the Italian grocery store here in Cleveland, called Gallucci's. If any of you guys are ever in Cleveland, check out Gallucci's. It's like proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. But yeah, they open at 7, and my wife's family wants us to bring as much crap as we possibly can from the Italian grocery store. Which for me, I'm Italian. I'm like, oh gee, twist my arm, but it's packed as hell on Christmas, so we're getting there right when they open. So
Yeah.
So Kale, Steven, you guys absolutely rule. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey,
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Straight back at
Anytime,
you, man.
Yeah, you guys, man, Brian and I say it all the time. It's nice to say it to you guys face to face. Thank you for checking out the show. Thank you for supporting the show. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Dude, it's been an absolute blast to have you guys on. So thank you so
congrats
much.
on a great first year, man.
Exactly.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks,
Yep.
Y'all, I mean, it's a great podcast, and I enjoy it. Thanks for getting me on tonight, and get to BS with you guys. I appreciate it. Have a Merry Christmas to every single one of you guys.
Straight
Much
back at you,
appreciated.
dude.
Same to you guys.
Yeah.
All right,
Safe,
we will see.
Merry Christmas. Have a great New Year, and let the spirit carry on.
Awesome.
I love it.
Nice.
Later, guys. Well, dude, I would say that our fan hangout show was pretty much, a rousing success. We've had a bunch of live viewers all night long. Dude, we could literally just keep going. If you had not messaged me and said, "Oh, I got to go soon," I mean, we could have done 4 or 5 hours if we wanted to. It was, man, this is a blast, and I think give your thoughts. I'll give my thoughts real quick, and since it is Christmas, and it is our fan hangout show, we've said it many times tonight. Brandon Charles was fantastic. Kale was fantastic. Steven, man, like our favorite part of the show is the viewers, the listeners, whatever you want to call them. They really make the show go. I mean, stuff like that, just having this crazy conversation for almost 3 hours and just letting it take us wherever it goes. Man, it is absolutely fantastic to have those guys be a part of the show. Daniel Wilson, good to see you, man. He says, great show, guys. Thank you. No, thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. Nick Brayman says, thank you all. Happy holidays. Yeah, dude, it's, the fans make the show. It's a total blast to do this with you. But again, it's the viewers and listeners that really make it go.
Yeah, it really is because, I don't know how many different podcasts you listen to. I have a core of like maybe 10 or so, some are sports and some are music and some are just kind of off the wall. But, I'm always listening to them after the fact. I've got them downloaded. I don't have this interaction and none of those shows have this type of, they might have some things where they get emails and they talk, but they don't have the true live, thing that we have going. And of course, we're never going to have 30 people at one time, but you couldn't have 30 people talk at one time anyway, or keep up with
Right.
it, So like we kind of have a decent amount each time, offer their thoughts, and we have a core that's awesome. But even tonight I don't know, there was 2 or 3 people I'd never heard of that are new, and I'm always seeing on our Facebook someone else likes us, and it's just such a cool thing. It's a cool community to be a part of. It's like social media has so much garbage and crap going on, but like when you get something like this, man, this is what it's supposed to be for. It's supposed to bring people together, not to go, oh, I love Trump or I love Biden. Who the hell cares about that crap? You know what I mean? Like this is,
Yep.
You find something that you're like, man, I thought I was the only dork that knew anything about the first keyboard player from Dream Theater. Then you find out, man, other people just worship this band, and I don't know. I am really amazed that it's turned into this. I never in a million years thought that. I thought we just, I don't know, crank out 5 episodes and go, well, we gave, we did it, whatever, it's cool. Like it's just kind of blown up into this giant thing, and like you said, it's really all about the people that tune in.
Yeah, I agree. I think I like to think that if the Dream Theater guys tuned into the show, that they would appreciate what we're doing, because I think I know that you agree with this. We try to represent the band in the best possible light.
Yeah.
We're honest with our opinions, but we also are incredibly respectful of the band, and it's they're a very fan oriented band, and I think our show being fan oriented, and honestly, excuse me, that was our idea from the get go. Was let's get the fans involved. Like, this is not just me and you talking. Like, let's get other Dream Theater fans in here to bullshit with us. And that's I mean you had come up with this concept for the fan hangout. Oh my God, it was half a year ago. I mean, you've had this sitting around forever, and we were trying to find the perfect time to do it. And it turned out like, hey man, like Christmas, let's do it at Christmas. It'd be a good time. Yeah. And so yeah, I really hope that if the Dream Theater guys were to ever hear the show or watch one of the videos, that they would kind of say that we represent the band well. And you just dropped out on video, so that's good. But yeah, I cannot thank you guys enough for jumping on. Again, Brandon Charles, you were fantastic. Steven, you were amazing. Kale, as always, you kicked ass. And to all you guys in the chat, man, again, you guys are just, you guys make the show go. So thank you very much. Carpe diem. Obviously, you guys are fantastic. Hope you have a great holiday. Nick Brayman, thank you, man. He says, you guys are killing it with this podcast. Format is great and engaging. Love it. Thank you, man. That's exactly what we want to do. We want to, content's got to be good, but we want to make sure that we're representing the band properly because, Dream Theater fans are very dedicated. And, Brian and I are fans, and we want to make sure that we, present the band in the best light possible. So you guys are absolutely kick-ass. Cannot thank you guys enough. Brian had to jump off. But, yeah, so we'll see you guys in a few weeks. We will be posting the next show date. It might be 3 weeks, not 2, but we will post the next show date. We might take 1 week off because we've done a back-to-back right here. So, but seriously, guys, you guys are fucking great. Sorry for the very obvious F-bomb, but hope you had a blast with this one. I know it's long. We're at, 2 hours and 55 minutes right now, but you guys are awesome. You make this show go. Dream Theater kicks ass. Hopefully you guys had a blast, and we will see you guys again soon. And wherever you are, whatever holiday you celebrate, we hope that you guys are safe. We hope that you are happy. We hope that you are healthy. And, man, we love you guys. So have a fantastic holiday, guys. Brian and I, much love and best wishes to all you guys. We will see you